Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Chatham Select Board meeting of August 11th, 2026. Let the record show the meeting started at 5:33 p.m. Please silence your cell phones and identify yourself if you come to the podium. Pursuant to Governor Healy's March 28, 2025, signing Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025 extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, suspending certain provisions of the Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 38, Section 20, until June 30th, 2027. This meeting of the Chatham Select Board is being conducted in person and via remote participation. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in that order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may do so by calling the phone number 1-508-945-4410, conference ID 203386491#, or join the meeting online via Microsoft Teams through the link in the posted agenda. While this is a live broadcast and simulcast on Chatham TV, Xfinity Channel 1072, despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide real-time access. We will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. I'm asking if anybody's recording this meeting, either directly or with AI, let me know, let us know. Hearing seeing no one. The first order of business this evening is to establish a quorum. I will do so now by running the roll, and now that the chairs are straightened out. Mr. Smith.
Present.
Mr. Nicastro.
Present.
Ms. Potash.
Present.
Mr. Metters.
Present.
And Mr. Dykens is present as well. The next item on the agenda is a review of our minutes, approval of our minutes of June 25th, 2026. Motion to...
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the minutes of June 25th, 2026.
Thank you, Mr. Metters.
Second.
Thank you, a second. And any edit suggestions? Oh, hearing and seeing none, we'll run the minutes. Okay, Mr. Smith.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Nicastro.
Aye.
Ms. Potash.
Aye.
Mr. Metters.
Aye.
And the chair says aye as well. The minutes of July 28th, the motion to approve.
Move approval of the minutes of July 28th, 2026.
Second.
Okay. Yeah, Mr. Nicastro.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have just one suggested insert on page 8. About two-thirds of the way down, after it says Vice Chair Metters was appointed as the alternate select board member, I'd like to insert this sentence. It was clarified that the alternate select board member would have the right to vote in Mr. Dykens' absence.
Very good. Great.
Got that, Kathy? Thank you.
Been moved and seconded. We'll take the roll. Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Mr. Nicastro.
Aye.
Ms. Potash.
Aye.
Mr. Metters.
Aye.
And Mr. Dykens says aye as well. The next item on our agenda are public announcements and agenda item requests. Anything from the board? Mr. Nicastro.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have two related to the Water and Sewer Advisory Committee. They have submitted some recommendations, I think, relative to regulatory, if not bylaw changes on the enforcement of water conservation restrictions, and they've been sent to us, so I would ask that that be put on the agenda at an appropriate time. Secondly, at their most recent meeting, they heard a presentation from Weston and Sampson relative to PFAS levels at wells 10 and 11, the new wells, with respect to the change in federal rules that are going to take effect in 2031. It was an excellent presentation, and I would like to request that that be scheduled for us, for our viewing as well, and the public viewing. But pending, the scheduling should be pending a Water and Sewer Committee recommendation to us on what to do. They're meeting in September, so once that takes place, I would like to have that on our agenda.
So noted.
Thank you.
Kathy, you got that? Anything else? Mr. Metters.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Just more of a kind of a courtesy. I know we received an email today from Seal Harrington. I know she has been trying to attend the select board meeting for the last couple of weeks to make this public agenda request, but she's been able to basically make it in person. So she sent us an email today about a community pool and outreach to community, the surrounding neighborhood. So I'm just asking that we treat that as a citizen's request and put it in the queue for an appropriate discussion. But I know she's been trying very diligently to try to make it to this meeting, but Tuesdays have become difficult for her. So I just want to put that on in the list. Yeah, please.
Okay.
I have a public announcement.
Ms. Potash, yeah.
Mr. Chair, thank you. So this is an announcement on behalf of the Bikeway Committee. The Bikeway Committee developed and implemented a master bicycle plan for Chatham in 2018. Over the past year or so, the Bikeways Committee has developed an update for the master bike plan. The Bikeway Committee invites the public to comment on the update, which will be presented during the Bikeway Committee meeting on Monday, August 24th at 4 p.m. at the small conference room at the Town Annex. The original master plan and the update are available for review at the Bikeways Committee website, and that is Chatham website, chatham.ma Bikeways Committee in the documents section. Audio and online video access will be available.
Thank you, Randy. Mr. Smith, did you have your hand up?
I did, thank you. This past, I think it was in the spring, if not late winter, we had a discussion about having a preliminary budget discussion. I think Mr. Nicastro mentioned this to be held in August, and I'd just like to, if it isn't on the agenda, to make an official agenda request to have a preliminary before the budget process starts. Thank you.
Are you talking about the budget summits on October 13th? I can just say it's not ready to be scheduled yet, Mr. Chair, for August. Our next meeting is August 25th. I know the Finance Division is working to close the books and get free cash certified.
Right.
But we're working on it internally, so we'll work on it for September before the budget summit.
Mr. Smith, anything in particular you wanted to think about
Well,
assumptions or
my
revenue projections or?
Yeah, my recollection was that before the budget summit, before the budget
Yeah.
process officially began, that we were going to have a preliminary discussion on the budget, and I'm just bringing that up to
Well,
make sure we don't lose sight of
When
it.
do we think about that in September? Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Good.
It was for August, but I understand
yeah.
we've slipped on that.
Yeah, yeah.
September's fine.
Super, okay.
Thank you.
Anything else? Anybody in the audience? Ms. Carolyn McClellan, please come forward.
Hello?
Hello, everyone. Carol McClellan, Chair of the Community Housing Partnership. I'm just here on behalf of the partnership to recommend that the Select Board would consider reducing our membership from 7 to 5. We had meeting last time, and maybe we have two more months of keeping it open. We've had to cancel 2 meetings this year because we don't have a quorum. We had one member who was out he just stopped coming and he wouldn't resign, so we had to wait for his term to end, and we had another member step down. So it's an issue, so we'd like a future agenda item to discuss that.
Okay, Carolyn, thank you. Anybody else in the audience?
Mr. Chair, I just, if you don't mind, I'm not sure,
Please.
Stuart, if you were going to mention, Mr. Brigden wanted to make an agenda item request.
I'm sorry. Thank you for reminding me. I thought, is Mr. Bridge?
He was going to come, but I don't think he's.
Okay, so thank you, Jill.
I
like to-
I am on the line.
Oh, there he is.
Mr. Bridgen, the microphone is yours. If you have an agenda item
Okay,
request.
yes, apologies, I couldn't make it there live tonight. I something came up and I couldn't get there, so apologies. I'd like to make a request so that we might review or present to you the recent change in the Chatham light. Recently, the Coast Guard removed the long-standing arrow beacons that have been running at the Chatham light nonstop for the last 30 years. It's the 150th anniversary of the Chatham light next year. And we would like to review what they've installed and see if we could get the town, in particular Select Board, on board with our request to the Coast Guard to reinstall the prior light fixtures using LED beacons consistently with their modernization plan, or other alternatives that would restore the offshore light and the nearshore navigation light necessary for our fishermen and boaters in the Chatham waters. And we'd like to present that to the town and share with them some of our findings and see if they would join us in talking to our friends and neighbors at the Coast Guard to find a solution to the situation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, so noted. Did we have a meeting with him Friday afternoon, or? Oh, okay, all right, so maybe preliminary. Okay, thank you, sir. Anybody else online with an agenda item request and/or an announcement? Anybody? Okay, hearing and seeing none, we'll go on to our scheduled agenda. We have 3 public hearings this evening. As water and sewer commissioners for a request for increased sewer flow, one for an application of a new entertainment license for amplified music at Chatham Wayside Hotel, and then an increase in the current Town of Chatham short-term rental registration fee. So I would turf it to the clerk, our clerk, Randy Potash, to read the first public hearing, please.
Okay. The Chatham Select Board, acting as Water and Sewer Commissioners, will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, August 11th, 2026, at 5:30 PM in the Town Hall Annex Large Meeting Room, 261 George Ryder Road, to consider a request for increased sewer flow of 59 gallons per day for the property located at 1615 Main Street, Chatham, to accommodate a change in use from 4,148 square feet of retail, 207 GPD, 2 pet grooming tubs, 200 GPD, and 34 fast food restaurant seats, 1080 GPD, for a total of 1,087 GPD to 1319 square feet of retail, 66 GPD, and 54 fast food seats, 1,080 GPD, for a total of 1146 GPD. All interested parties are encouraged to attend either in person or remotely using the Teams link in the posted agenda.
Thank you very much, Clerk Potash. I see Rob Faley at the podium. Rob, comments on this one?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Rob Faley, Director of Public Works. As just Chatham Moods Cafe is converting a portion of the pet grooming and retail to a new bar area with a kind of a gaming area as well. It's only an increase of an additional 59 gallons per day. And the Water and Sewer Advisory Committee reviewed the request on June 1st and voted to support the increase.
Super, thank you so much. Any questions by members of the board? Mr. Smith?
I assume they have a liquor license now? I hear bar,
They do. They do.
they do.
If you give me a moment, I can pull it up, but yes,
Yeah,
they do.
They do.
Yeah, if they do, they do. Okay, great, thank you.
Any questions from the public? This is a public hearing. Any comments or questions from the public, either here in person and/or online? Okay, hearing and seeing none, a relatively light request here. I'll trip it back to the board.
Mr. Chair, I move approval.
Second.
Okay, we'll call the roll. Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Nacastro?
Aye.
Ms. Potash?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
And Mr. Dyken says aye as well. The next public hearing, please, Randy Potash, clerk.
Sure. Notice is hereby given that the Chatham Select Board will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, August 11th, 2026, at 5:30 PM in the large meeting room at Town Hall Annex 261 George Ryder Road, to consider an application for a new annual entertainment license for indoor amplified live and recorded music for TPG Chatham Wayside LLC, doing business as Chatham Wayside Inn, 512 Main Street, Chatham. All interested parties are encouraged to participate in person or remotely via the link in the posted agenda.
Thank you, Clerk Potash. I do believe we have Sean Linehan, the manager at the Wayside Inn, here with us this evening, and a couple comments, or a comment from you, Sean. I know we had a Friday night snafu, if you will, so what are we doing here this evening?
So what we're looking at doing is just indoor music, nothing outdoors, in the Wild Goose Tavern, to go ahead and allow for entertainment, to be able to do that, to draw business in. So we're applying for this permit to be able to do acoustic primarily, and then also amplified music as well too, here and there throughout the end of the year. But it'll all be indoors for this purpose. The snafu we had earlier was a private event, but we've instructed our private events to make sure that we're doing that inside as well too. We'll move that inside to make sure that anything that's going on in the town with Cape Cool Park, we won't interfere with that. We'll make sure we work around that. We want to be good neighbors.
The interference at the band concert a couple of weeks ago, 2 or 3 weeks ago,
Yeah.
was that a private event? Was it outside?
It was a private event outside, yes.
It was outside? Okay.
Yes.
Because it was,
We moved it inside quickly once we realized that the times overlapped. We didn't realize that they were gonna overlap at that time. But we went through, talked with the town, and said that we would ensure that we would not make sure there's any overlap between the performances within the park, with Shakespeare in the park, with the town band, and we have not had any incidents since. We've had several events, but it was a welcome rehearsal dinner for a wedding.
just another quick question, then I'll turf it, but you've had other events inside on Friday nights since that?
Yes, we have. We've had music inside and maintained it inside for private events only.
Okay. Mr. Nacastro has his hand up.
Thank you. Are the windows and doors kept closed during the
Yes.
performances? The amplified music, is it recorded music or live music?
It'll be mostly live music, but there may be on a time where we may use a DJ, but no bass or anything of that nature. We'll just be playing normal songs.
Okay. And in the recent times where you've had some private events totally indoors, have you had any complaints or concerns expressed from
I have not.
anyone? Okay.
Yeah,
Thank-
since the first incident, the beginning of July, we have not had any incidents since.
Okay. Have you had any communication with the Chatham band since the incident that did occur?
No, not directly, but we did go back that evening, apologize to them. We moved the music inside to kind of make sure that we weren't going through, but nothing directly with them, no.
Okay. You haven't had any communication regarding this application?
No, I have not.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm not going to beat anybody up here, but Friday nights, Chatham band, sacrosanct time.
Yes.
So it can't be interrupted with loud music from the waist. It just can't. It's been here for generations, scores of years, forever. Almost 100. So it is our civic event. It is extremely popular, and it just can't be disrupted. Just FYI.
Yeah, no, I agree. I've
Okay.
had conversations with events that we're having at that time to make sure that they will be moving inside and they won't go outside. We're not allowed to, whenever those times align, it'll be inside.
Mr. Metters.
So the music on Friday nights inside private events, approximately how many do you have a year? Are there a significant amount of those events?
There's,
There's significant amount of those events at that same time, I guess is what where I'm going with this.
it would be minimal, maybe 3 max. We've only had one so far that was on Friday night, since the first one. And we won't have many more of that night. Usually it's Thursdays is a request for most of it because we're doing rehearsal dinners. We're not a large space. So it's usually during those rehearsal dinners for weddings that are Friday or Saturday night.
Would you feel it unfair if this board asked you to exclude that pocket of time for any events, just so we don't butt into issues with the band?
Yeah, I'm perfectly fine with that because it's not an area where I need the music to draw in business anyways. The town band games in the summertime typically draw that business in for me, so I'm perfectly fine with.
Okay, just something to consider, just to really kind of have everyone at ease that what happened a couple weeks ago is a one and done, and we've done everything under our power to avoid anything in the future.
Yeah, definitely. And we
Okay.
want to be good neighbors, so I'm more than happy to do that.
All right,
Okay,
thank you.
good. All right, Mr. Nacastro.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate your willingness to cooperate on this. But I wanted to ask Shakespeare in the Park, of course, this year they had a lot of rain problems. Is it the larger part of a 2-week period in July and August? Is that, and they perform Monday through, Sunday through Thursday?
Yeah.
Or maybe Saturday through Thursday. But you would continue to have this totally indoors if you had an event, a private event or a hotel-sponsored event?
Yes. So the idea is we're not looking to go outside. Everything's inside. When I talked with the town, when I officially put the permit, they asked, because I put very specifically to be indoors. They said, are you planning on going outside? I said, no, not for the near future. We'd like to keep it inside because it's kind of a test for us. We're really doing just a lot of acoustic with one person with a guitar
Yeah.
and vocals. The space, if you've been in there, doesn't allow for large bands or large amounts of music. We want it to be still a comfortable dining area for them, so yes, but I will take that into account as well too. I did talk with the team to make sure Shakespeare in the Park, and the town events and things of that nature that are going on in Cakewood Park, we would make sure that we were indoors and it wouldn't be anything that would be extremely amplified during that time, and we wouldn't do any of the electronic
Great.
music.
Great, thank you. Which rooms does it take place in? Is it all, you got the tavern, you've got the main dining room, and then you've got sort of the extension of the main dining room?
Oh, yeah, so for private events, we do it in the back, the main extension. We
Okay.
close that off, and that's for private events in that back room, but we have a wall that closes it off from the restaurant.
Yeah.
And then when we're doing our music for the guests, the fireplace, when you first enter, we typically station them there or inside the Main Street Saloon, so it's a little further. It's not directly against the wall abutting the park. It's either when you first enter towards the front off of Main Street, so the guests kind of get that experience as they arrive, or we do it in the Main Street Tavern, which is the room that's adjacent or across from the front desk, in those two areas.
So you actually seclude these performances even from your own dining guests in the main dining rooms, so it's not.
Depending on the volume, yes, because we kind of set it up to where different areas kind of doing different experiences, leaning more towards the guest beverage, but we also can put it through the PA system. We have a PA system, so it doesn't matter where I put the band. I play it through the PA system that's within
Okay.
the restaurant. So it plays, instead of a speaker playing directly out and amplified, it'll play through the PA system. So the poor people sitting closest to the music aren't deafened.
Okay. Thank you, I appreciate the steps you've taken, thank you.
Mr. Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of questions. So this is a new license, Kathy? So there wasn't a license in effect during this time when the conference?
Correct. There was no entertainment license prior to this.
Okay, so when you say inside, Sean, do you mean inside the structure and not the tents?
Yes, so it would be inside the physical structure of the building.
Great.
Inside the Wild Goose Tavern or the Main Street Tavern, which is what we use as a secondary dining room.
Great, and I don't know whether you or Katie Donovan might want to come up to answer, but the tents, is the tent out, there's at least one tent out front,
Yes,
and there's one tent in the back.
yes.
Do they have all the relevant licenses and permissions to be there? It seems long.
Yes, thank you, Katie Donovan, Assistant Town Manager and Director of Community Development. When we had the conversation with the group, we realized that they had not had their HBDC approval. The tents originally went up during the COVID pandemic, and there was a little bit more leniency during that time for the tents. They still needed to meet building code, which they did. They've had their tent inspections, but my understanding is that they've applied with the HBDC at this point in time for those two tents. That was the only outstanding permit that we realized that they didn't have when they came in to talk about the issues with the music.
So the Wayside has permits for permanent fixtures of tents in the front and the back?
They're meant to be temporary for the season, but yes, they do get their tent permits.
So we take those tents down November 1st and then put them back up in April. So they come down. So it's a three-season structure.
That seems pretty permanent to me. Now, so during this time when they don't have all their permits, because they haven't gotten HBDC, what happens to the tents? How do they remain there without the permits, the requisite permits?
So if the because as soon as we realized it was an oversight that they did not have the HBDC, they got their application in right away, and we said if HBDC does not approve it, they would have to take them down. But it didn't necessarily make sense for them to take them down and put them back up for that short timeline of approximately 2 weeks where they would have been heard before the HBDC.
Okay, well, it seems like they're going to, I mean, I don't know what the HBDC decision will be, but certainly the front tent affects the front facade of that old structure. Okay, thank you.
So, yeah, this is an application for an annual entertainment license, so it's, okay. Okay, thoughts on an approval? I'm sorry, this is a public hearing. Anybody from the public like to speak? Yes, John?
John Hogan, South Chatham, and I really much appreciate what how you're starting to handle this. I will say that the evening that occurred, I was sitting basically just right at the flagpole and so on, and during the first few minutes and so on, it was so loud, so I ended up having to move to be in front of the bathrooms, and I could still hear it over there. But then I believe 8:27, I believe after Anita went and talked to you and so on, it was obviously reduced, but even, so I came back to where my original seat was around 8:15. There was still, the back doors were open to the tent, so there was still, I could still hear music. So I just want to make sure that when you have these events inside, they're truly inside, doors shut to that tent area.
Yeah, so we would still keep it closed going forward.
Right.
Once we realize the error, we'd keep that closed. There may be individuals that walk in and out from time to time with the door
True.
opening.
Right.
Because we can't lock it, but we would keep it inside.
But at that time, the doors were fully open, so.
Yep, sorry. Yeah, so what I was saying was that we would keep the doors closed. Obviously, individuals may go in and out of the doors at times throughout the event, but we would keep the doors closed and not have them propped open going forward. Because we realized the concern and the issue when we had the overlap. I mean, we immediately tried to rectify it, just to make sure, and I've told the team specifically that going forward, we wouldn't do it.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, John. Any other comments or questions from the public, either here or online? Please.
Hi, Anita Harris.
Hi, Anita.
Old Harbor Road. I'm a member and the manager of the Chatham Band. And on behalf of the band, I want to thank the board for their thoughtful discussion tonight. We've always been good neighbors with the Wayside Inn and plan to be for decades to come. Missteps happen, but sometimes the silver lining is that you realize how much your community appreciates you. The Chatham Band would like to recognize and thank all the residents and visitors who have voiced their support for us. Thank you very much. A lot of effort goes into putting together our Friday night concerts, but it's a tradition that we value. And the love and enthusiasm we get from the town makes it well worth it. We hope to see you this Friday. Thank you.
Thank you, Anita. Any other public comments? Okay, hearing and seeing none, either online or at present.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mr. Metters, please.
I move to approve a new annual entertainment license for indoor amplified live and recorded music for TPG Chatham Wayside LLC, doing business as Chatham Wayside Hotel, 512 Main Street, Chatham, Massachusetts, with no musical entertainment activities to occur on Fridays from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m., and we'll get the exact dates for basically the band concert season. You know, those will adjust every year, but basically excluding that one window.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We'll take the roll. Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Nacastro?
Aye.
Ms. Potash?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
And the chair says aye as well. Thank you very much, Sean. Be well. We have another public hearing in terms of our short-term rental registration fees. I'll turf the announcement over to our clerk.
Okay, notice is hereby given that the Chatham Select Board will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, August 11th, 2026, in the large meeting room at Town Hall Annex, 261 George Ryder Road, to consider an increase to the current Town of Chatham short-term rental registration fees as follows. Annual registration fee increase from $50 to $200. All interested parties are encouraged to participate in person or remotely via the link in the posted agenda.
Thank you very much, Clerk Potash. You're going to step down. Okay, Mr. Smith. Mr. Berman?
Great, thank you very much. Greg Berman, your Director of Natural Resources. As was indicated in the agenda report, this is actually kind of coming back to the Select Board. You folks had heard this back in early June, and, that was late March. And then in early June, the Board of Health was able to act on your recommendation. Your recommendation at the time was to have the Board of Health increase the fee from $50 to $200. We had a discussion about it at that point. The Board of Health opted to adjust their regulations, which they were going to have to do for the fee increase anyway, to set it to the rate set by the Select Board. So pretty much I'm just coming back to you to have a public hearing to actually set the rate yourselves instead of recommending to the Board of Health to select that particular rate.
Okay. Mr. Nacastro.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Greg. I just had a question. I'm supportive of the increase. We'll hear from the public. Yeah, they're using, the memo refers to approximately 900 registrations. Do we know, and maybe this is an unfair question, and needs to be asked of the person in charge of the registrations, but do we know what percentage of short-term rentals we're reaching? Do we have a sense of that? How many are out there that haven't registered?
I can't give you an exact number. I mean, that's one thing that we're always looking at, and right now they're kind of going through the registration process. Enforcement and notifications are going to start for those who don't register. You know, the first thing that we look at is people who registered previously and aren't registering this year. We actually do have some AI crawlers out there looking for folks who may be renting on various websites. We have our town staff looking at the various properties on typical websites. So there are some that aren't registering. The preponderance of them do. You know, with the 900 ballpark, you know, some estimates have been around 1,000, but we're getting the lion's share of them, and we're reducing it as we go forward.
Are you getting any resistance when we approach someone that has not registered, whom you think should be registered?
The only resistance so far is absence, that we don't necessarily get a response back. That's one of the things where we will bring that person before the Board of Health. Oftentimes, fines will rack up to very high amounts, which gets them in front of the Board of Health. Board of Health has been very accepting of reducing those fines. Once they get there, they want compliance and entry into the registry versus, punitive action. But there is still some capture of that funds to cover staff time and that sort of thing.
Is the Board of Health recommending 200, or are they just leaving it to us to pick a number?
They're pretty much leaving it to the select board.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Hi, Mr. Metters.
I mean, I grew up in this town. My parents, my grandparents, all cottages, quaint little rustic cottages. With the passing of my parents, I'm out of the business. It's changed drastically. Short-term rentals are a different beast these days. Sometimes they're really impacting neighborhoods. $50, $200 is the cost of doing business. No one's going to blink at this. The people who are really running businesses, $200 is $50 to them. It really is. So there's no pushback. More importantly, what I want to just get reinforced is with this $200 fee and the costs associated with our staff, is this a proper funding amount for us to do the job we need to do to monitor and inspect and everything else under the sun for the short-term rentals? Does it provide the tool to do the job? Good question.
For the short term of the short-term rentals?
Yes.
Yes. Your Director of Community Development, Katie Donovan, and myself have discussed, there is another position within building to help with inspections mandated by the state, separate from the health. So the funds from this would cover those positions. The thing that's still a question mark is the potential fire department might need to also do inspections, depending on if, I believe, Maggie's Law goes into effect, which is still kind of a question mark right now. So hopefully we'll be able to work out who's doing what when, but we're kind of waiting to see from the state too.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Ms. Potash.
So for now, I'm comfortable with $200, although I've already asked for an agenda item to look at whether or not a bylaw would be more appropriate for our town, because it allows for a broader control, and it would also allow for the town to get reimbursed for enforcement a little bit more precisely than now. So for today, I am comfortable with the $200, but just for today.
Okay, thank you. This is a public hearing. Is there anybody from the public either here? Okay, yes, Carolyn McClellan and then Mr. Phillips. And I have someone online as well.
Carolyn McClellan, South Chatham. I'm supportive of this. I'd also like to suggest to the select board that they look into increasing the fine for noncompliance and also enforcement of the occupancy. So when it's a house that has 10 people, there should be a mechanism in place to control when we know there's 20 people in that house or they're exceeding the number of people. It should be easy for, not easy, but there should be a pathway to enforce that and a consequence.
Thank you, Carolyn. Brian, I think you had your hand up. I thought I saw you.
Brian Phillips, 374 Orleans Road. I'd like to echo those sentiments. Also, to Dean's point, there are websites that you don't get the address to the house until after you paid for it, so they're going to be very tough to track down some of these houses. And then I don't think 200 is enough. I think we should bump it up. I think Provincetown is like 750 or something. Our short-term rental market is out of control. We do need to enforce occupancy, and I do think we need to generate more money to do that from this. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
So maybe 350 is the number I'm throwing out there. Thanks.
Thank you, Brian. Anybody else, either here or online? I have Ron Manderscheid. Ron? You're muted, Ron. You take off mute, please. No,
Okay, there we are.
There you go.
There we are, yeah. Ron Manderscheid, I'm a member of the Summer Resident Advisory Committee. We are looking into the whole issue of short-term rentals and hope to have a report to provide to the select board approximately in the next month, and we also want to continue to work on this issue over the next year. On the issue of fees, it's very clear that Chatham has the lowest fees of any entity on the Cape. And these fees range anywhere from $50 in Chatham to $750 in Provincetown. What we've been thinking about is suggesting that this be looked into by the select board, but not just leave it as a flat fee, but a fee where there would be a range of fees depending upon how many rooms in the house that you're renting. So if you had a 2-room house, it would be a lesser fee than if you had a very large house where you had 10 bedrooms, basically. So I want to bring that to your attention and to basically report that we will be giving you a report later, probably later in September. So appreciate the opportunity to comment.
Okay, thank you, Ron. Thank you. Kim Burson, I see your hand up. Kim?
It is. Thank you very much. I just want to let you know I was one of the privileged residents to be part of the original short-term rental working group in 2022 with the Board of Health. And at that time, when we set that fee, it was very preliminary and expected to rise continually. And here we are 4 years later, it has not risen. And at that time, our original work was to create a bylaw, and that was going to allow much stricter guidelines. And it ended up, long story short, Mr. Metters, Mr. Dykens, you were both involved with that working group. It was easier to create a Board of Health guideline instead of a bylaw at that time. Mm-hmm. But I think time is now of the essence that this must become a bylaw in order to manage the extravagant numbers of short-term rentals and the extravagant number of violations that will be seen when a bylaw is instituted. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Kim. Thank you. I know that's being considered, so thank you for those comments. Mr. Nicastro.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So Greg, the enforcement mechanism, if this is adopted or even for the current $50 fee, is through the Board of Health?
Yes.
Under their regulations. I would support a bylaw, but that's not the issue before us. I would support, if I could, bumping it up to $300 tonight, but we can't because the public hearing notice has a limit of $200. So I think we should, and I appreciate what the Summer Residence Committee working group is doing, and I know Randy's been involved with that. That's a very interesting proposition that Ron put forward, and we'll wait to see what they have to say. But I would suggest we consider, it may not have much effect this season, I don't know, scheduling a second public hearing with a proposed increase to $300 or $350. I'd put $350 in the notice, and then we can discuss it. Maybe we could get that done before the season is out. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Otherwise, I'm going to support the $200 increase.
Okay, Ms. Potash.
So I also think we should have a second public hearing with at least 350 on the table. And I believe that this would be for next year anyway. So I think we have plenty of time to do it. Because it wouldn't even be in effect till January, is that right? March?
Beginning of the calendar year.
Yeah, so there you go. So I support that. I would even move that we do that.
Well, we have to conclude this, and then we can have another motion. But Mr. Berman.
I do just want to, if folks wanted to see some of the background behind the 200 number, back in March, we kind of scaled up from 50, and once you get to about 200, that's when we start hitting the break-even point with staffing costs. Not that there are more costs associated with that within town, but that was our break-even for at least that. So we're happy to explore more, but that was the rationale at the time.
I think, Mr. Chair, I think if we do have this second hearing and we have a 350, or whatever it is, we want to see that additional information so we can justify the fee. Otherwise, I think we run into some potential legal problems if we're charging more just to make money on it. Thank you. I move approval, Mr. Chairman, to $200.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. All right, we'll call the roll. Oh, any other comments? Hearing seen none. Okay, Mr. Nacastro.
Aye.
Ms. Potash.
Aye.
Mr. Metters.
Aye.
And the chair says aye as well. Thank you,
Mr. Chair,
Greg.
the
And then-
memo said that we're supposed to take a vote to close the public hearing, but I'll move that anyway.
Second.
Okay. All right. Mr. Castro? Yep. Ms. Potash?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
And Mr. Dyken says aye as well. I get the feeling, or certainly get the sense, that the issue's not closed. It will be moving forward. It will be interesting to hear from SRAC on Ron's notions. I think some of that makes a lot of common sense, or a lot of it makes a lot of common sense. Okay, we'll have Mr. Smith. The next item is a consent agenda. We do not have a consent agenda this evening. The next item is our update on our Chatham Wells, PFAS, and drinking water with Mr. Rob Faley. This is for July 2026. Mr. Faley.
Thank you. Good evening. So yeah, this is the July pumping report, PFAS treatment, drought, all wrapped up into one. Wells have been pumping 8 to 20 hours per day. They did hit, the water tanks hit the low-level alarm 3 to 4 times this month, the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd of July, and the 14th. And I know this has been kind of a test case to see if, with all 11 wells pumping, if this is adequate to supply Chatham and their needs. But there are some extenuating circumstances, especially on the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. We're still working out a lot of little bugs in wells 5 and 8 treatment plan. We're working with the contractor, the design engineer, and our SCADA engineer about high-pressure alarms and the wells being shut down prematurely. So we're working on those pressure issues. We're thinking of maybe an issue where we have to ramp up the pressure in a more gradual sense instead of, when the wells kick on, they kick a lot of pressure on. So we are working on that. I think the 14th was more of an anomaly because we've had some other well issues, just maintenance. These wells are running extensively during the summer, and we have chemical feed pump breakdowns and leaks, and we need to shut those down and work on those. So I think July is not a really good indicator at this point. So far in August, we haven't had any low-level alarms. Things are running a little bit more smoothly, but we're still working on those issues. And for wells 5 and 8, the solar panels have been installed on the roof, and we are working on getting those into the grid. Any questions on the? Okay, I'll move on. So the Water and Sewer Advisory Committee updates. The committee, as Mr. Nacastro mentioned earlier, there's a bylaw that's coming down. I asked the water commissioners to accept those changes once that time comes. We're looking at a future select board agenda report for that. And also the Weston and Sampson proposal for the PFAS treatment at wells 10 and 11. Continuing on with the irrigation meter update. Nothing really has changed there. We're up to 1,460 operable irrigation meters in Chatham. As of the end of July, there were 2 properties that had not still paid for a second meter. One of them was in court. I think we talked about this last time, that they got a $50 court fee. I was at the district court yesterday, and they were a no-show. So we'll have to consult with town council and the PD and possibly the DA for next steps as we bring those to justice, I guess you'll say, and the additional 10 properties that have not made appointments for installing the second meter. So that's an ongoing battle. Again, out of 635, we're down to approximately 12, which is a really good progress. Moving on to water sampling. Nothing out of the ordinary there. Everything's coming back in good shape. Annual maintenance is good. There was a large water leak on Stage Harbor Road early in July. It was a 5-foot lateral crack. It was repaired that same day. And everything else, we did post 75 pink cards for non-pavement of water bills. We only shut off 7 of those, and we've been working with those property owners to get them connected again. So here's the pumping report, July 25 versus July 26. You can see we're down about 2.1 million gallons, which is 2.7%. Couple of big days, nothing out of the ordinary. It is midsummer here in Chatham. Here's a pumping graph that shows similar data, fluctuations, high and low, just based on usage and holidays and things of that nature. And a bar chart showing the same thing. And this is just where I'd like to get into a little bit more detail about the wells. You can see on the first, second, and third, wells 5 and 8 were not contributing that much. They were only pumping several hours that day. You could also see on the first, wells 10 and 11 were very low. On the second, wells, South Chatham wells 1, 2, and 3 were very low. So it's just a lot of ongoing maintenance and shuffling of things as the system is fully operating and all wells are contributing at the same time. Even if we go down to the 14th, you can see well 4, well 5, and wells 10 and 11 were kind of underproducing that day. And it's just, again, ongoing maintenance. And when we have a leak in our analyzers or our chemical feeds, we have to drain it, clean it, repair it, and let it set up for 24 hours. So it's not just a quick, we repair it in 2 hours and we're back up and running. It's pretty much shut down for the day. So it does have an impact on the amount we're able to pump.
Rob?
Yes.
I was surprised that July showed 2 million gallon decrease over 20.
Nope.
Thank you. I was surprised that July showed a 2 million gallon decrease over usage last year at the same time. Do we have anything we can attribute that to?
I'd say probably the amount of rainfall that we had in July had people shutting off their irrigation meters a little bit longer or more frequently.
Okay.
And I'll get into that a little bit more later when we talk about rainfall and drought status.
Yeah, one thing I will mention, since you mentioned irrigation meters, it was mentioned at the Water and Sewer Committee. You mentioned it, and Tom Barr mentioned it. Summer water usage. We'll see this in the Weston and Sampson presentation. 80% of it is irrigation on town water.
Well, 80% of those, 80% of the usage of those households that have irrigation meters, yes, if you have an irrigation system, typically we're seeing that 80% of that household's use is for irrigation.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Again, this is monthly pumping graph. Again, similar information, just showing it in more visible form. And here's the year-to-date pumping report. Again, monthly totals, we're at 259 million gallons. Last year, we were at 244 million, so we're almost 15 million gallons over, even though July was under. Almost all the other months were over last year. And here's the year-to-date pumping graph. Here's the year-to-date unmetered water usage. Flushing and blow-offs, I think a lot of that is attributed to the break that we had. There was really no way to meter it, but we do measure it. Again, here's the unmetered water usage graph. And here's the 5-year pumping comparison for the month of July. We are at low for the last 5 years for July, which is really good news. Again, I think it had to do something with the rain. But we're even below the average, which is all a good sign. Hopefully, people are complying with the water conservation restrictions.
I'd like to think it helps.
Here's Chatham's observation well. You can see we are right in line with where we were last year. It's not necessarily great news, but we are also very close to where we were in 2022, and that was the last drought that we had. So. A little ways to go. You could see the rainfall has kind of slowed down the seasonal decline a little bit, and I think that's helped. But if we look at Brewster, which is more of the bellwether for this part of the Cape, again, we are right in line with where we were last year, but a way to go before we see substantial improvement. As you know, groundwater is slow to recharge in the Cape because of the sandy soil. So we won't see any kind of, even with a lot of rain, we won't see any kind of incremental improvement in the groundwater elevations this time of year. It'll probably be late September, October before we may see any relief. And the drought update. The headline for July is precipitation. So if you look at the left map, that's May. You can see the Cape is some green, some brown. On the bottom one below that, the smaller map, that's July. You can see some more brown in there. It was a little bit drier. But then you go to July, the larger map, and we are at anywhere from 90 to 100+% of what our normal precipitation is for July. So I think that really helped save us from being in a much worse situation drought-wise. Again, some long-term deficits. We're in a drought for almost 2 years now. The abundant rainfall helped us. It helped keep the stream flow and soil moisture stats higher. But again, the soil recharge is what's slowing us down. And so they did meet on the Drought Task Force met on August 7th and was declared us to remain in a level 2 drought. And they see that the face of Massachusetts is changing pretty dramatically. So they're meeting again on August 20th, which is usually every month that they meet, but they're meeting every 2 weeks now just to see what the status changes, if they need to reverse some of the decisions they've made, or if it continues to improve. But that's all I had for you, unless you have any questions.
Questions for Rob from the board? I had one, Rob, on the bottom of the page 2, I think it was. You made a comment that, bottom of page 2 on 7/27/26, 27 letters were sent to properties that were investigated due to high water use in the July water readings and were found to have unregistered irrigation systems and no second meters installed. So they go on the bad boy list, if you will, and we follow up. And then you said another 29 are being evaluated next week as possibly having irrigation on town water. So that really piques my interest. We got to make sure we nail these down. We got to nail these down.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Sorry, I kind of glossed right over
okay.
that piece, so the words get a little jumbled at one time. But yeah, no, we are, and some of those people, some of those first 27 letters that went out, some of those people are coming in and registering and paying for second meters.
They are.
They are. We're putting out nice, kind reminder letters now, and we'll go to enforcement letters later if we have to.
But it takes our reminder,
Yes.
should be pretty well known that if you're on town water and irrigating, you need a second meter. No new hookups, but if you have one, you gotta get a second meter.
So we are looking at the water usage, and we're putting boots on the ground to see if they have backflows devices and if they have sprinkler heads in the ground to make a confirmation.
So, on a positive note, I'm really happy you're looking at stuff like that so that you're identifying outliers, I should say. Or outlaws for that one, no, I'm just kidding. Any other questions for Rob? Any other questions for Rob? Rob, great report as always.
Thank you.
Thank you very, very much. Okay, next item is public comments on business agenda. I do have some updates. I want to let you know that I am tabling the discussion on sidewalks on Route 137. I got a little excited, and I certainly do not want to confuse and/or preempt the deep deliberations of the ZBA. So I apologize for getting a little excited, and I got a little ahead of myself. Should sidewalks on 137 become an issue going forward, then certainly we will bring it back. So I just wanted you guys to know that I'm tabling that issue. We will not be discussing it this evening. There's also a change to, and we'll get to it, it'll be quick, a change to the comment letter for the Wilderness Stewardship Manual. So there's also a change coming there. Okay. So next item, we have a business agenda that includes the clarification of the Summer Residence Advisory Committee, its charge, the use of town property or one-day entertainment license for the Beach Run and Swim for the Navy SEAL Foundation, request to change the existing town landing permit for Andrew Buckley, a review of the draft of proposals for the RFP for affordable and attainable housing development at 127 Old Harbor Road, an update on the recycling program. Mr. Faley will bring that forward. A town waterfront projects update requested by Stuart Smith. Again, consider a comment letter. It'll be short. And then a discussion on town council services, requests for qualifications, our interview process and scheduling thereof. So if anybody wishes to speak on the business agendas that I just mentioned, we allow public comment virtually on every issue. So the first item on our business agenda is the clarification of the Summer Residence Advisory Committee charge. This was an item that kind of bubbled up via the chair of the SRAC, the Summer Residence Advisory Committee, Mr. Jeff Spalter, asked me to kind of consider this, put this on the agenda, so I did. But I asked, Town Council Jay Talaman to weigh in on his take, his opinion on the difference in interpretations of various charges, one for the Summer Resident Advisory Committee via town meeting and one that's in our charter that Mr. Smith has raised repeatedly in interviews. So I just wanted to bring clarity, potentially bring clarity forward on their charge. So the first thing I'm going to do is turf it to our Town Council, Jay Talaman, for a summary of his opinion, and then I'm going to call on Mr. Spalter, and then I'm going to turf it back to the board. Mr. Talaman.
Can everybody hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Right, so the question was posed to me as to essentially provide some clarity with respect to whether or not there's a conflict between the charge of the Summer Residence Advisory Committee and the policy that the Select Board has regarding committees following the general policies of the Select Board. I don't think that there's a conflict in those things. In other words, I don't believe that the policy that you have regarding general compliance with Select Board policies in any way influences or impacts or changes the independence of the Summer Residence Advisory Committee, which has a right under the charge of town meeting, as repeatedly kind of confirmed by the Select Board over the years, to issue recommendations as they see fit to the Select Board and to town meeting. That's a right that they've had for quite some time now. It is unrestrained or unrestricted by the town meeting vote. And I think its plain meaning is to say what's on their mind. Obviously, there's always guardrails out there, but they are in no way, in my opinion, bound to give opinions and recommendations that only favor policy prerogatives of the Select Board on substantive issues. They are required, I think, when we turn to the policy, to follow general policies that the Select Board adopts from time to time. And one example that I gave, because the Select Board has a number of policies, is, say, for example, the social media policy, Like any other committee, these general procedural and protocol-related policies should be followed by this committee the same way they're followed by every other committee in town. But otherwise, I think their charge is fairly straightforward, that they have the right to express themselves and give opinions on behalf of their own constituents, so to speak, which are the tax-paying, non-voting residents of the town. So I summarized it in as briefly as I could in my August 7th letter to the board, and I'm happy to answer any questions on that.
Thank you, Jay. Any questions for Jay at this point? Ms. Potash?
Yeah, thank you, Council. I was wondering if you think that any changes to this would have to go through town meeting?
It's an interesting question, Randy. I think that given the charge of town meeting, it's likely that we probably would want to do that. Town meeting has the authority to create committees and to give them responsibilities. So it stands to reason, and this is discussed a little bit in town meeting time as well, that a town meeting would either be required to either amend that or to get rid of that. I think you could add to or qualify the charges of the town meeting by providing them with additional guidance or authorities. I think taking away their authority would probably require, or amending it in a way that reduced their authority would probably have to go back to town meeting to reconsider that.
Thank you. And I don't want to be confused with someone who thinks it should be changed. I just wanted to kind of make it clear what the avenue would be.
Okay, Mr. Nacastro, then Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Jay. I concur with your conclusion and your reasoning with the qualification that I question, and this I'm really getting into theoretics, I question your suggestion that limiting the scope of what the committee might recommend could raise questions with respect to freedom of speech guarantees. It would seem to me that, and I haven't done any current research on this, but it would seem to me, and I'm not recommending this, that if town meeting creates a committee, or if the select board creates a committee, it could impose limitations on what the committee could do, including that that committee not take positions against substantive policies undertaken by the creating body without violating the First Amendment.
Well, I agree with that, Dean, for sure.
Okay.
So that's not what I was getting at. What I'm getting at is within the confines of what their charge is, they're no different than, say, for example, and there are free speech issues with this, a select board, for example, trying to hem in one of their regulatory statutory boards out there. The fact that they've given a charge means that they have the ability within the confines of what they're expressing back to the town meeting and to the select board to express themselves there. And the select board, to the extent that the select board ever wanted to do this, and I'm not aware of any instance where they did, to hem them in by fiat would raise concerns within the confines of their jurisdiction.
Okay, I appreciate that clarification. Thank you very much.
Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jay, thanks for your opinion. Jay, thanks for your input. I had a couple of questions. Because this is not a particularly uncomplicated question, because the charter gives the board of the select board the responsibility of creating and abolishing and committees. We're the appointing authority, and that's that. However, and in this case, town meeting, I guess we did both. The select board created the as an example, Summer Residence Advisory Committee, but this goes beyond, frankly, the summer residence folks. But town meeting in 1996, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but created or named and gave some charge to the Summer Residence Advisory Committee. So that being said, when there's a conflict between the charter, responsibilities that are clearly delineated in the charter, and a conflict with a town meeting vote or a bylaw, which one prevails?
The charter, Stuart, and I'm not aware of a conflict here, but on a theoretical sense, the charter is state law. So the charter has superior, or it's in a superior rank, so to speak, in terms of the hierarchy between those various types of administrative or legislative action. So the charter would have, if there was a direct conflict, the charter would come first, bylaws would likely come second, town meeting fiats would come third. The effort always, when there are conflicts between different types of enactments, is to see if they could be harmonized first. Now, again, I'm not aware of any direct conflict here. I don't discern one. There's been no action that indicates that we have to go through the exercise of seeing whether or not an action by the Summer Residence Advisory Committee or town meeting in creating the Summer Residence Advisory Committee is offensive to anything in the charter that is intended to essentially preclude that action. So it is correct to state that the charter would come first in that instance, for sure.
So we have, I don't know how many committees, 50, 70? Anybody know the number?
55.
27 advisory, 6 regulatory, or there's 27 advisory committees, 6 boards and 7 boards and 6 commissions.
39.
You know, we made some jovial discussion about, the Finance Committee being a phantom or shadow select board. You know, some of that was just banter back and forth, but I think those involved were trying to make a point. I think the point applies here. It seems to me that, theoretically anyway, you could have 27 advisory committees when the select board takes a vote and says, we're going to take this position. We could have 27 advisory committees saying, yeah, thanks, but no, we're not doing that. I don't know how that's manageable. So I think that's problematic from a leadership standpoint. Now, advisory committee members are quasi, help me out, Jake, public employees, sort of?
Yeah, for the purpose of some statutes, they're public employees for sure, not for all statutes, but for things like public records and open meeting law, they are. Of course, all of the advisory committees that are not capable or empowered with the ability to make binding decisions are just that. They are just giving recommendations, and the select board can take it or leave it. And I think that's an important distinction, regardless of how many different committees may chafe at the substantive decisions by the select board. It can't be changed if the select board is ultimately where the buck stops.
Yeah,
So,
and I agree with that, I think. But we're not talking about, at least when I brought this up, I made it clear that, and I've made it clear since then, that we and our committees and the public should have, the ability, and we should encourage them to have discussions, and they can even make recommendations. They frequently do. I don't at all argue that point. That's what we should be encouraging. with all of our committees, including the Summer Residence Advisory Committee, because you're right, any of those 27 committees, some of the recommendations may not be in keeping with the select board's, well, either policy or position, or maybe it's unknown at the time. But that's not what we're talking about here, at least that's not what I was talking about. What we're talking about here is that an advisory committee was set up by both the select board, different times, and town meeting, to provide recommendations, as it says in the town meeting article, recommendations to the select board. Doesn't say recommendations to any other group, it says recommendations to the select board. That's reasonable. My question is, once the select board has taken a vote, and in this particular case, it's 2 votes, and then a subordinate committee decides that, no, they're going to take a different position. And not only are they going to take a different position, which I guess that's fine with me. I guess I can see those instances. But they're going to go beyond that. They're going to lobby. They're going to market their position. They're going to spend town funds to advertise their position that is in opposition of a select board vote. How does that get? I don't get that.
So I'm not sure if there's a question there, but I think that, you know, in terms of using municipal resources, the dollars and cents are finite. And I don't know what funding is provided to which committees. Obviously, some of these committees have funding from the town. Others, their efforts in terms of marketing or promotion of ideas are probably more privately funded, and maybe just these committees are the mouthpiece. But again, I'm not aware of a situation, I'm not aware of it either, where there's a concern with respect to misuse of municipal resources in advocacy of a particular issue. Obviously, these committees are free to disagree with the select board, and that doesn't mean that they have any more authority except the power of persuasion. And that's just the way that government is set up. And every town has a number of advisory or committees that just make non-binding recommendations. Some of them are stronger than others.
Yeah, and just to get back to your comment about the committee funding, most advisory committees don't have any funding, at least that I'm aware of. Some have minuscule amounts. The Summer Residence Advisory Committee has at least $2,000 of taxpayer money that they use to advertise their town meeting, market for other positions of theirs. And in this particular case, and this is really what I have trouble with, I have no trouble whatsoever with recommendations, spirited dialogue. We want to encourage that sort of thing, absolutely. And, you know, reasonable people can disagree. Where I'm having trouble with is the select board took a vote, and a subordinate committee appointed by this board went beyond recommendations to a lobbying standpoint with respect to this particular issue. And you're suggesting that that's okay?
I am suggesting that, and I don't know the extent to what you consider to be lobbying activity. So again, it could be a more complex question in terms of what they're lobbying for or against, and I could examine that on a case-by-case basis. But in terms of if lobbying is more of a small L lobbying, where they're trying to convince people to take a certain action or advocate for a certain action to be taken, then I would say that's within their authority. Obviously, their charge is to make recommendations to the select board. How they get there is up to them. Now, if if the funds given to them are for a particular purpose, and I don't know what those funds are, it should be limited to their particular purpose. If the town has chosen to fund their Summer Residence Advisory Committee annual meeting, then that's a budgeting decision that the town is making that I think is separate from the issue that we're talking about. There's nothing that precludes the town, and the select board controls the budget, obviously, from putting forward money and giving it to them for some purpose that's, kind of next to or adjacent to their ultimate charge.
Okay, on your,
And Mr. Nacastro.
yeah, certainly. Yeah.
Thank you, Stuart. I wanted to, just following up on Stuart's inquiry, because it's an interesting point to me. So the Summer Residence Committee is budgeted $2,000. And historically, as I understand it, they've used it to advertise for the annual summer town meeting, which is going to occur next week. And recently, they also had a special session on the residential tax exemption, which was, when I watched it, was intended to be educational. Although there was public comment from people in attendance who challenged the select board position on it, the majority position that was voted, as Stuart said. So, and I expect, and I've heard, that there's going to be a presentation next week at the Summer Residence, at the Summer Town meeting sponsored by the Summer Residence Committee. Is there a line that they should not cross? And I think this is what Stuart is talking about. Dividing educational and informational perspective from advocacy in the use of the public funds. I should think there is, but I'm looking to you, Jay, to clarify that.
I think it would be difficult to draw that line. I think, again, we're dealing in hypotheticals, so, it's better to deal in actual facts to come up with concrete examples. I would view generally their meetings, which the select board have chosen to support a budget item that allows these meetings, as incidental to the committee's charge itself of making recommendations to the select board. In other words, the other summer residents are giving input to the committee, which essentially represents their interests in many respects, on the type of recommendations that they want to move forward. I think we could probably come up with hypotheticals where that money is used for ways that are not adjacent or incidental to their charge. But I'm not aware either. I think it could exist, but I don't think that there's a hard and fast rule that can be applied here to essentially draw a conclusion that these types of meetings and the spending of the money on these types of meetings is off limits. Of course, the select board could choose at any time in any fiscal year to not fund those events.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's hypothetical. It's not going to be hypothetical next week, and I think there should be some guidance for this. The Summer Residence Committee meets weekly in the summertime, and they meet monthly now in the off-season as a committee. I don't think they're spending funds for those meetings. Where they traditionally have spent funds, and I don't think they even come close to spending the $2,000, is to put ads or flyers around town saying we're having an annual summer town meeting, please attend. These are the topics that are going to be discussed. And historically, they've always been very informational. They hear a report from the town manager, they hear a report from the, this is at the town meeting, the annual summertime meeting. They hear a report from the chair of the Board of Selectmen, and the town moderator moderates the meeting, and there are various topics that are discussed. We know that they're going to discuss the residential tax exemption, and it would seem to me, God, it troubles me, if that meeting is being used to advocate for a particular position on the residential tax exemption versus an informational presentation. Now, I'm not covering, I don't mean to exclude free and open questions and answers that may be asked by members in attendance, but you seem to think it's not easy to draw that distinction. And I just really question that as a taxpayer. Anyway, I'm sorry, Stuart, I just really wanted to expand on that.
Yeah, and I understand that we can stretch these concepts to their breaking point. But in many ways, I think one way to look at it is these meetings where they're arriving at recommendations to the select board, say, for example, a negative recommendation with respect to the RTE. These meetings are probably how the sausage is being made for them to get to those recommendations.
Well, I guess we're going to let it be unresolved but I'm still having trouble with the fact that town funds are being used to lobby and advocate for a position contrary to a select board vote. You know, I use the analogy, it's not perfect, but it's close as far as to our thinking here. You know, the town manager is responsible for the efficient and appropriate supervision of the town staff. And, you know, I assume there's dialogue and debate on a particular subject that they're talking about. The town manager makes a decision. That decision is within her responsibility under the charter. It's not outside of that. It's within her jurisdiction. Town employee says, yeah, I'm not doing that. I think there's a serious breakdown. There would be a serious breakdown in command structure in that environment. And it's the same thing. I see the same thing here. So in your third paragraph, it says in August of 2024, the select board changed the name of the committee to Summer Residence Advisory, blah, blah, blah. Nothing particular. Additionally, it is notable that from time to time, the SRAC has taken positions and made recommendations on various matters, including positions and recommendations that are in conflict with the positions taken by the select board. What positions are those? I wasn't aware of those. When did that take place?
Well, I'm informed that they do that, and it appears that their RTE recommendations may be emblematic of that. I'm operating based on the information given to me, that they're not always in lockstep with the select board.
And as we've...
That was the information provided to me.
Okay, well, I'm just wasn't aware of them, but in any event, as we've chatted about, those recommendations, that chit-chat back and forth, that's what we should be doing. I'm still hung up, we won't resolve it, I guess, tonight, that once a vote is taken to this board, that a subordinate committee can say, yeah, we're not doing that. And not only we're not doing it, we're going to lobby against this.
I am, for what it's worth, I am not concluding that.
Okay, thank you.
If a vote is taken of this board to, for example, implement the RTE, these purely advisory committees have no say in the matter.
Right, but do they have a...
It becomes the rule of the town.
Right, and do they have a responsibility, not recommendations, communications, continued dialogue on the RTE, but do they have the ability, in this case, to say to the appointing authority, thanks, we get your vote, we're not doing it, and we're going to advocate, lobby, and we're going to spend town funds to do it?
They can state that we're going to continue to advocate against it, or make recommendations for perhaps rescission of that vote, but they can't choose not to follow it, because if the select board adopts it, it's the law of the town.
Thank you. On the fifth paragraph...
I want to recognize Mr. Nacastro, Mr. Smith, and then keep going, but we got to
I do have to say that
He's got an appointment, but anyway.
Well, so on page one of the last paragraph, I'm just trying to digest and understand this, because I wasn't part of the initial question, nor was I part of this initiating the town council review. You say, in my opinion, this policy does not have the same, assuming that that's a select board policy, does not have the same binding force as a vote of town meeting. But I think what I was hearing initially was that the charter would prevail, and our policy responsibility and authority comes from the charter. So I guess I'm confused by that statement.
yeah, but it's an adoption of a policy, which is not a binding law, bylaw, or regulation. So policies can bend and can be changed at any time. They're not official actions. You have the authority to make them, but ultimately you have the authority to undo them. It doesn't mean that people are free to ignore your policies. It just means they don't have the fixed legal status as a vote of your legislative assembly. Your authority to adopt policies certainly does, but the policies themselves are revocable or changeable at any time by the select board.
Okay, and I just want to make clear that, as I did earlier, that the town meeting vote in 96 or 4, it clearly states that the recommendations from the Summer Residence Advisory Committee comes to the select board. Last paragraph, I'm going to skip over the freedom of speech guarantees. I think Mr. Nicastro has addressed similar concerns that I had. But the last paragraph, I just wanted to make a few comments that I think need, clarification. And you say, second, in my opinion, the select board's above quoted policy does not appear to stand for the proposition that all local communities are bound in advance only those recommendations that are consistent with the positions taken by the select board. Okay? And then you go on, rather than the better reading of the policy is to require committees to adhere to the general procedural conduct policies of the adopted by the select board. I don't agree with that, but nonetheless, that's maybe for a different time. I think once the select board takes a vote and that the debate, the recommendations, the dialogue can continue, but you can't lobby, you can't market, you can't spend town funds in opposition of that vote. Now, I don't think you were asked that question in fairness to you. But at the end of this sentence, it says, general procedural and conduct policies that are adopted by the select board and the town manager. The town manager, in this case, the town manager doesn't have policy-setting responsibilities for committees. That's for the select board, correct?
I think there are some policies set by the town manager that should be followed by the various committees. And so I do apologize, but I've had a 7 o'clock scheduled for.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna finish up. I don't agree with that. By the way, the charter is crystal clear on this issue, and crystal clear that the committees and boards and commissions are appointed and subservient to this board. I mean, the town manager. Now, if the town manager passes a policy and she would like the committees to adhere to it, I suppose that exists. That should come to the select board for approval. And lastly, it's the last sentence of effect, non-voting taxpayers should not be conflated with the obligation to follow general procedural policies adopted by the town manager or select board, and I've already stated that I don't agree with that.
Right.
One last thing, in the memo, we have a listing of Summer Residence Advisory Committee. It's after the cover page. And it has some historic information here, Article 25 of 97, very clear to me. The Board of Selectmen minutes of 2004, also clear. Then it says, Summer Residence Homepage 1/9/2006. You know, I don't want to sound, sometimes I, you know, speak out of turn a little bit to make a point, but I don't care what their homepage says. That has no relevance here whatsoever. If there wasn't a select board, obviously there was no minutes because the minutes weren't provided here. So I'm just assuming that that doesn't exist. So, and then it goes on for 07 Board of Selectmen minutes. So I think this part of the memo where the summer residence homepage states something and they decide what it is they're going to be doing is irrelevant. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Nacastro had his hand up, and as did Ms. Potash.
Yeah, just a quick follow-up on the issue of funding. I think what I heard Jay say is he feels there is kind of a fuzzy line between funding that is used for educational or informational purposes and funding that is used for lobbying purposes, therefore hard to, at least in advance, hypothetically distinguish. But I also think I heard him say that, and let me expand on it, that if in fact Summer Residence Committee were to use the funds to advocate against a particular policy of the Select Board at their summer town meeting for which they have expended funds for advertising and so forth, that they run the risk that the Select Board in budget season could reduce or eliminate the funding, and that would also be up to town meeting. So there is an ultimate remedy there if it is perceived. And I'm not recommending anything. I just, you know, I am absolutely pristine when it comes to defending the rights of the Select Board, whatever our individual positions might be on the RTE, and also the rights of the taxpayers and concerns of the taxpayers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nacastro. Ms. Potash.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think that this should be discussed when we take up boards and committees in the fall. And we should, you know, be able to open a lot of the issues that were mentioned tonight then.
Okay, is that an agenda item request? We're going to do it anyway, so it's really not an agenda item request. Mr. Metters, any comments?
I have nothing more to add tonight, no.
Okay. Their original charge, I think, is fairly clear that they'll make recommendations to the Select Board on issues of concern to non-resident taxpayers, and said committee shall designate a representative or representatives who shall be permitted to speak but not vote in an annual special town meetings. They've been in existence for 77 or 78 years. I think we probably funded, I didn't go back and look to see how we funded them during the course of those years, but we've never had an issue about funding until they've come up with an issue that they're vehemently opposed to. So I think that's a little unfair. They've always been funded. They oppose an issue, but we're not going to fund them now because they oppose an issue. They're an independent advisory committee that can weigh in on positive or negatively. They've also added extremely a lot of value in the years past, especially with the grinder pump and water and wastewater. They've been very proactive, very thoughtful. Ron tonight was very thoughtful in his approach to the short-term fees, rental rates. So I'm not a strict constructionist. I would say constitutional charter constructionist on this one, if you will. Totally understand the arguments. There are some very good points made this evening. I appreciate it. But with respect to their charge, I believe their charge is to make recommendations. Now, we may not like the recommendations depending on our position, but...
And I agreed with that.
Yeah, and they should be able to make independent recommendations.
That wasn't the issue, though.
Yeah, okay, all right, I get it. It's the tension between advisory versus charter versus monies.
It's really a vote, really, honestly. I don't mean
And
it's the vote of this board.
Right, well, okay. But this, yeah. So that's where I'm going to land with it. I'm going to accept their recommendation. I'm going to go to the town meeting and their town meeting and present as chair. And I think I've been invited to come even this Friday to address or discuss the RTE, I believe, with the Summer Residence Advisory Committee. They can lobby me all they want. I mean, everybody kind of knows where I sit with it and why. I have presented to the SRAC in the past. I thought I was very clear and hopefully cogent. But anyway, we'd like to ask Mr. Jeff Spalter, the chair of the Summer Residence Advisory Committee, to come up. Jeff, in theory, you've got 3 minutes, so let's make it 3 minutes and let's move on here.
I can talk fast.
Okay, good.
No, I appreciate it. First,
Welcome.
I want to, Jeff Spalter, Summer Advisory Committee Chair. First, I want to thank the Select Board Chair for bringing forward the issue to clarify the role of the SRAC. I didn't plan to talk about this, but in response, the funds that we spend, we have a $2,000 budget each year. The large majority of that just goes for the advertising of our summer town meeting. We did have an extra meeting this year. It was not intended to lobby. It was intended to educate on the RT because there was quite a bit of incorrect information that had been circulating, including in publications that went out to a broad part of the town. And so the large majority of what we talked about was data and facts and the law. So that was what we had tried to do. And there has been a sensitivity to not using town resources for lobbying. And as a matter of fact, the staff, as we've tried to communicate and connect with some residents using what's the weekly?
Main sheet.
The main sheet.
The main sheet, thank you very much. The town staff a couple times said, now that's really not appropriate for the main sheet, and have asked us to not put some stuff in there. So there's some oversight, just so you know, that dialogue does take place, and we respect that. It seemed that the legal opinion tonight that provided seemed supportive of the role that we have tried to play since 1997. This will be our 80th Summertown meeting that's coming up, which has been to give advice to the Select Board and to represent the position of the summer residents or the non-taxpayers. There has been this negative connotation when the SRIC was accused of not following town guidelines or policy, and I'm glad to see that we're trying to resolve that. We're really trying to resolve this. We'll continue to execute our charge by providing advice to the Select Board representing the summer residents with the best interest of Chatham in mind, as we've tried to do, is to take a broad look and share with you what we think is best for the entire town. And our intent will continue to be to always follow the rules, the guidelines, and the laws, whatever they are. So, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Spalter. And Randy?
So I just want to tell you that I think you misspoke. You are taxpayers. You said non-taxpayers.
Non-voting.
You meant to say non-voters.
I apologize. Yes, we
For
pay.
the record,
I appreciate that.
yeah. Always thinking of you.
Okay, thank you, Randy. Any other comments? Thank you, Mr. Spalter. We'll see you Friday. Carolyn, come on up, 3 minutes.
Carolyn McClellan, South Chatham. After listening to everything, I certainly am supportive of SREC being able to have their role as an advisory board to the Select Board, and that they're going to advocate for their opinion, their point of view. They do a lot of research. They can make a lot of contributions to the town. My single issue is that they're funded, that they're getting town monies to amplify their message. And I understand the desire to do that. I've watched some meetings, and they have their position, and then they're going to set up a meeting to educate. And it is a gray line, and you're never going to be able to exactly cut it either way. I think that the solution is easy, is to not give them any funding, and they have to function just like all the other boards. I've spent years trying to amplify the message of affordable housing, and my board is not funded, and I have to work within the framework as all these other advisory committees, and it's challenging. So I just think that to make the playing field even, that they should not be funded in any way that the other advisory committees are not funded. Thank you.
Mr. Nacastro, then Mr. Smith.
I want to make two comments. First, thank you, Carolyn. I watched entirely the recent Summer Residence Committee presentation on the RTE, and I thought it was superbly presented. It was purely educational. It was purely informational. Both Jeff and Tom Garvey did that. And we certainly welcomed the comments from the audience. With respect to, Carolyn's touches on an interesting point. I'm not recommending not funding the Summer Residence Committee. I'm just going to touch on a point she made, because this came up in the context of the senior center over the last 10 or 15 years. And the Council on Aging frequently took up the subject of what could they do to encourage voters in the town at town meeting to support the various proposals for a new Center for Active Living. And they were very cautious to stay this side of a certain line, just as Carolyn's committee, I think, has done that over the years. So it's an issue. And maybe Randy is right. We do talk about this in the context of our annual review of all the committees, because this presents an issue for the staff. All these committees are looking for guidance on this. So I just really wanted to make that point. But I do note that I did want to confirm for the record that I think the recent meeting that was held was certainly within bounds. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean.
Yeah, I was.
Mr. Smith.
Thank you. I agree with you and Randy's thinking that we can address this more thoroughly during the review of the committees. I don't agree with the chairperson of the SRAC saying that this is that this issue is settled. To me, it's not settled. We have a problem, and the problem is that your charge given to you by town meeting and to some degree the select board says your recommendations come to the select board, and that we have a personnel rules and regulations that say you got to follow the policies of the board, and certainly a vote of the board is above a policy. So anyway, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Smith. Any other further comment? Kim Burson. Kim, I'll recognize you. You've got 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. I don't even know where to begin, except that your own town meeting, the voters delayed the implementation of the RTE. That has not even been mentioned. And yet, there are summer residents who, independent of the Summer Residence Advisory Committee, have joined together and had conversations, meaningful, purposeful, thoughtful, useful conversations about why this is not the right tool. And no one wants to listen to that. The Summer Residence Advisory Committee is the one avenue for almost half of your taxpayers, thank you, Randy, taxpayers, to have a voice. They are not going against anything that you've implemented. As Mr. Smith calls it, we ain't doing it. That's not what they're saying. They're asking you to be more thoughtful, to be more careful about why you're implementing this and who are you actually going to help. Summer residents are supporting helping anyone in need. Never has that been disputed. We are just asking it to be implemented in the right way so it doesn't help people who don't need it. So although you can skirt around this issue of are the boards following what the select board says, we know why this was brought up, and it's exclusively because of the RTE. If you're not listening to all the thoughtful conversations going on, including SRAC, then you're missing the point. Your own town meeting requested, you delay, and you should listen to your own town. Thank you.
Okay, Kim, thank you very much. Any other comments, either here and or online? I hear and seeing none. We will move on to our next agenda item. It is the consideration of the use of town property, a request for a special one-day entertainment license, request for a special one-day alcohol license, and sale of goods on town property. Endeavor Foundation Challenge Series, noted as Beach Run and Swim for the Navy SEAL Foundation on September 12th, 2026, with a rain date September 13th, 2026, at Harding's Beach. And I believe there's a person by the name of Parker Luftus who is online and going to present. Good evening, Parker.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, and good evening to members of the board. My name is Parker Loftus. I'll be representing Endeavor Foundation. I don't want to take too much of the meeting's time, but I'll try to give some context behind our request by providing a background on Endeavor Foundation and the SEAL Foundation, as well as a quick overview on our event before I turn it back over to the board for questions. I was grew up as a summer resident in Chatham. My parents were school teachers out in Western Mass. Now my parents are full-time residents. I believe my dad's in the room there. I'm currently an active duty SEAL, and I spent the first 3 years of my career at Team 4 and got to serve with Noah Richard, who's the founder of Endeavor Foundation. Endeavor wanted to take kind of all our favorite parts about the SEAL community and use it to serve others in a different capacity. So this year, Noah founded Endeavor as a nonprofit that acts as a third-party charity. So it hosts and provides the venue of endurance events to raise money for other charities and to build community in the same way that our community gets built in the teams through, physical activity for a common goal. The SEAL Foundation supports members of the Naval Special Warfare community and their families. So they offer a wide variety of resources to include support for families of deployed SEALs, supporting the Gold Star families who are the surviving family members of SEALs killed in action. And kind of a good example of what the type of stuff they do. Like I was going through some medical treatment when I was in training in San Diego, and they paid to fly my mom out from Massachusetts to be with me for treatment. So they offer that kind of support for SEALs and their families. When I was on Team 4, I kept telling all my buddies how awesome of a place Chatham was. And a couple years ago, I brought 2 of them back for Memorial Day weekend. And then the next visit, there were 4 SEALs that came back with me. And then eventually there were 10 SEAls. And to Team 4 and to all my buddies, Chatham became a really special place. And so when Noah and I were talking about the first Endeavor event and where we should host it, we knew it had to be Chatham, and we wanted to use the first one to support the SEAL Foundation. So for the event, it'll be intended to be a 5K beach run on Hardings Beach and a 500-meter swim. The race will start at 10 o'clock, and we expect it to last about an hour. And then we are planning for a post-run celebration in the Hardings Beach parking lot with food and drink provided by Red River Barbecue out of Harwich and a food truck, and then the Cape Cod mobile mixers managed by Rory Nickerson. Noah and I assessed that the 2 biggest risks to Endeavor and the town from the event are the risk of personal injury with a swim, and then the risks surrounding alcohol consumption. So to mitigate risks with a swim, we're planning for the course to be parallel along the beach and in relatively shallow water. We also have participants signing a liability release waiver, and Endeavor also has event insurance with the town of Chatham covered as an additional insured. We'll have some organic medical support on site. My mom's a registered nurse over at Fontaine, and then we'll also have some SEAL medics there who are qualified paramedics. So with all those mitigating factors, we don't assess that we need third-party lifeguard support, but over to the select board's oversight on that matter. And then finally, for alcohol consumption, we will ensure that the food and drink area is cordoned off with rope with a single point of entry overseen by event staff to make sure any sold alcohol doesn't leave the premises. And then we'll have identification checked by trained staff members and wristbands issued to personnel over 21 to make sure that no alcohol is sold or consumed to persons under 21 years of age. So that's the general overview, and I'll turn it over to the board for questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Parker. That's a great summary, and it looks like a great event. Mr. Nicastro.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is obviously an outstandingly worthy event, and we all appreciate your underlying service to the country. You certainly laid out in great detail what the event consists of, how it's going to be conducted. So I'm enthusiastically supportive, and I'm prepared to offer 3 motions, but unless there are other comments.
Please go ahead, Mr. Nicastro.
First, I move to approve the use of town property and grant permission for the sale of goods on town property for the Endeavor Foundation Beach Run and Swim to benefit the Navy SEAL Foundation on Saturday, September 12th, 2026, rain date September 13th, 2026, from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. in the second lot of Hardings Beach.
Second.
And a vote. Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Nicastro?
Aye.
Ms. Potash?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
The chair says aye as well.
Second, I move to grant a special one-day entertainment license to Parker Loftus for amplified recorded music and announcements on Saturday, September 12th, 2026, rain date September 13th, 2026, from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. at Harding's Beach.
Second.
Super. Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. DeCastro?
Aye.
Ms. Botas?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
And the chair says aye as well.
And thirdly, I move to grant a special one-day alcohol license for all alcoholic beverages to Rory Nickerson of Mobile Mixers for Saturday, September 12th, 2026. Rain date September 13th, 2026, from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. DeCastro?
Aye.
Ms. Botas?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
The chair says aye. I will also comment, Parker, this was one of the best applications we've seen here on the Select Board. Extremely tight, extremely complete. Thank you very much. Have a
Mr.
good
Chair?
time. Yes.
I just
Thank
can't
you,
help,
sir,
I
and I would
can't
like
help
to-
but offer sort of a joke. I'm surprised you need a rain date, Navy SEALs. Really? You know, do you really need a rain date?
These are the, these are the
We'll
good,
be fine in the rain. but-
these
Yeah.
these are the welcome seals.
The welcome seals, you
Like the
got
20
it. You got it.
30,000 out there that are not
Right.
particularly
There'll
welcome.
be hopefully no great whites chasing you. Anyway,
And thank you, sir. We definitely owe the application to a lot of the town staff. I'm by no means a good event planner, and the town staff was super helpful in helping us put all that together. So thank you again.
well, it was an excellent package, and I thank you and the staff. Okay, moving on here. The next is Andrew Buckley. Thank you for your patience, sir. Andrew is requesting a change to his license, his special town landing special permit, and he's here this evening with Jason, our harbor master. Take it away, folks, and Catherine.
Catherine Ricks, Coastal Resilience Director, here for Mr. Buckley. He is requesting a change of use to his existing special use permit where he currently has the special use permit for shuttle service within the Stage Harbor complex. He would like to add 90 Bridge Street, which is a new facility, and so we wanted to bring it to the Select Board.
Okay. Andrew, do you want to say anything, or?
I guess I'd like to.
Have Jason speak? Well, you waited all this time, Andrew. I'm going to give you the podium here.
Thank you. The previous permit that was issued by the board, as said, was pretty much added language to cover anything in the Stage Harbor complex. And so just being able to use that new dock that is there, open to the public, just to clarify that I'd be able to use that as well. And just to be able to say this is a service that I'm trying to provide, to the public as best I can. This year, our insurance rates tripled. And so it's really just a case of, I'm just trying to get people as conveniently on the boat and as safely as I can, rather than having to have them board from the other side at the town landing, which is not ideal.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Jason, Catherine?
Thank you,
Good
Mr.
boys.
Chair.
Yep.
Reason this kind of got brought up is that traditionally we've had 3 points on the south side to where 3 public access points where people could board vessels, Little Mill Pond, Old Mill Boatyard, and Barn Hill. Those typically have special use permits associated with them. Prior to the town owning that parcel at 90 Bridge Street, we didn't even have the access across the street for that little town landing, but as we've built it, it now is a viable landing of sorts, and it is getting used. So with that, as we're still developing rules and regulations for that, we wanted to clarify for Mr. Buckley that he's able to use that. He does provide a service for our maritime community and our boaters, so it was important to me. And kind of coinciding with that as well, wanted to open it up for input from the Select Board on my intent to establish a wait list for that facility for residents only for future special use permits to move forward. Understanding that we still have the rules and regulations to be put in place, but trying to get a little bit ahead of the 8 ball because there will be demand for this. So pending the Select Board's direction as far as in regards to his permit, it would be my intent to establish that wait list as we have for Barn Hill, Riders Cove, and Old Mill Boatyard, with the exception of this one being resident only.
Okay, Mr. Smith, and then we'll go around the horn.
Thank you, Jeff. Thanks, Jason and Catherine, for bringing this forward. I was involved in my old position with Mr. Buckley, kind of chatting and talking about this service, and really the importance. It's not a charter business that's taking people offshore or onto the flats, fly fishing. This is primarily, although it does do that, this is primarily, or has been historically, taking people from the town landings to their vessels. This is important because one of the more challenging issues that we face along the waterfront is the proliferation of dinghies and small watercraft. They're spread all over the coastline. And this was an effort that I supported to help reduce the need for that. So I think it's very different. It does provide a service to the general maritime community that's optional. They don't have to take it. But I think it's important that the committee discuss this about the best way to push and expand this, because the dinghy issue has not been solved. And it's all over the marsh grass. It's all over the private properties. It's a very untenable situation. So are there any other permits for 90 Bridge Street?
No, this will be the first one.
Nobody, this is the first one. And currently, and I support your waiting list, not that you need it from us, but I certainly support the waiting list endeavor as a way to manage that facility. Is it restricted to resident property taxpayers only, or is it open to everybody?
As
For
far as
parking, for parking?
For parking, there's no parking regulations I'm aware of, other than what would be included in the normal town landing regulations, which would be that town landing use is for the intended traditional use of a town landing.
So, right, and the reason I bring it up is because it's very similar to Old Mill Boatyard, and a lot of our south-facing access, that the residents have nowhere to park because they get down there and it's chewed up with people that either don't have moorings there or and don't have property here. So I think that that's an important thing when you bring the regulations, that you vet that issue with the committees and see what their thinking is. I think, I hate to restrict it, but I think we're going to be forced to do that, or our residents are simply going to have nowhere to park. So thank you.
Mr. Nicastro.
Yeah, I'm fully supportive of Andrew's application. I just wanted to point one thing out. I think this is an old document in the packet. The boat registration shows an expiration of May 2nd, 2025, so probably that should be updated, or what?
Yeah, that in the packet was his previous
Okay.
application.
Okay. I'm sure it's current, but thank you. I move approval, unless there's comments.
I'll second that.
Okay, and I have no issue whatsoever. I think it's great. I hope your business increases, Andrew. It's great. Provide a great service. So it's been moved and seconded. We're going to call the roll here. Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Nicastro?
Aye.
Ms. Potash?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
And the chair says aye.
Thank you.
Go, go, go.
Thank you.
You bet, thank you. Next item on our agenda is a review of a draft request for proposals, an RFP, for affordable and attainable ownership housing development at 127 Old Harbor Road. And I do believe we have Gloria McPherson, our Housing and Sustainability Director, here this evening to help us through this one, this RFP. This is, we look forward to this one. Welcome, Gloria. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing great. Hope you guys are surviving the heat. I also want to mention that we have our consultant team online to answer any questions. We worked together on this draft RFP, making sure it reflected the design guidelines that you guys voted on a few months ago at a prior meeting. Just going to do a brief overview of the RFP that you have in front of you. It's built off of the Stepping Stones Road RFP because there are a lot of similarities between the two. They're ownership projects. They require the same things under 30B procurement law, so all of that particular language is in there. And then for the particulars for this proposal, we're asking for ownership housing, 4 to 6 units, and 25% affordable so that we can use 40B for this, and the other 75% attainable up to 200% AMI, which is actually exactly what we did for Stepping Stones Road. And I just want to expand on one of those things that I mentioned, 4 to 6 units, which we voted on. If you guys look in attachment A, the evaluation criteria, I did put a little asterisk under number of dwelling units. So 5 to 6 units are proposed on the site. That would be like the most points. But I did say more than 6 units may be considered if the density is sensitively achieved, blah, 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 follows the design guidelines. That's an optional thing. That was one of those things that I know it's not what we discussed, but I was thinking about the Stepping Stones Road RFP, and when we put that out, we got inquiries about the number of units. If you remember, we had a minimum number of units, so it's a little bit different. Like, this is more of a maximum. We had a minimum, and a question came in saying, would you consider a proposal with fewer than the minimum? And my response was, yeah, sure, why not? Like, let's see what you guys have to offer. And I put this in there with the same thing in the back of my mind that, you know, perhaps someone's going to come in and say, actually, would you consider more? Totally optional. That's why it's a little star. Happy to discuss.
If I, Mr. Chairman, if I.
Yeah, please, Mr. Smith and then Mr. Metters.
If I could make a comment, I am going to ask that we take that out of the RFP. The select board took a vote on this issue, and I think that issue is settled. So, thank you.
I think that's what, go ahead, Corey.
You're kind. I'm actually very upset about that additional language, because this has been one of those topics that have gone on and on and on. We started with a very, I mean, we've had members of this board come and go over the years. I voted against it. I have been personally attacked over my position on this particular property. I've been accused of not liking affordable housing. You know, 127 Old Harbor Road, from my position from day one, Marion Ellis had a will, she had a certain position she wanted the town to have. We have strayed so far away from that, it's crazy. We got to the point where, like, okay, you know what, we're going to redo this building. On a side note, we've been horrible stewards of that building, horrible. And we were getting to a point where, like, fine, we'll take the existing structure barn, create some kind of housing, tie it into Mary Ellis's will, move forward. Years have passed, and we've been back and forth about density. Density has been the most divisive word lately for any of our housing projects, and we came up with a number that we, at least me, I kind of gave into, and to keep going ahead of that and keep expanding that conversation, I'm not jumping on board of it. So I would absolutely remove that language, because this project, if we had done it the way we pitched it to the town meeting a long time ago, would have been done years ago. And it's just been put on the back burner. It's been not a priority. It's been poorly done. The town has been a horrible steward of this property. If you want to get me going, I can keep going, but I am.
So noted. I explained my rationale. I feel like, as a professional who deals with these kinds of RFPs, if certain things come up in prior RFPs, it doesn't hurt to just throw it out there. If you guys don't want it, we'll take it out.
But
It's not.
I think the contention really is that we took a vote saying a certain number.
What a 6.
So anyway.
Okay, I'm Mr. Nacastro.
Sorry.
Stuart.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I share Mr. Matter's history on this, including being publicly accused of being a naysayer, because I opposed housing at this particular property. But town meeting voted at least once to do it, and we have opinions of 2 separate town councils that support the position that the restriction is in the deed is no longer in place, and I'll accept their conclusions. They reached them differently. So I'm proceeding on that basis, which is why I supported the design guidelines, and, you know, I think the test fits and that process produced a result that is somewhat, more than somewhat appealing. I share the view that that should come out. It's also present in two other locations. It's in the introduction, in the very first paragraph, right in the middle. It says proposals that meet the evaluation criteria and include more than 6 units should be considered. I think that should come out there. And it's also on the paragraph number 4, development objectives, where it says in the second paragraph, creative proposals that meet the evaluation criteria and include more than 6 units will be considered. So that should be stricken there, as well as in the evaluation criteria section. And the thing that sort of jumped out at me was, and I understand, Gloria, I appreciate, your explanation of why you did that. I'm not faulting you for doing it. I'm just telling you, I think it's consistent with the board's previous vote that those come out. But it looked to me, as I read the the comparative evaluation criteria, that if you're in that third box in the matrix, you sort of get a higher estimate. Maybe I don't understand the process, and that's why I was somewhat, it says highly advantageous. So it probably should come out there. Also, I just would note editorially on attachment A, it refers to Stepping Stones Road at the top, so you want to take that out.
I told you I built it off of the Stepping Stones Road.
And see if I had anything else along those lines. I think those are the only this is a very minor thing. On the second page of the request for proposals, at the very bottom, the last line, it says respected to the property. I think you mean with respect to the property.
Wait, where is that?
Very last line on the second page of the request.
Oh, with respect, right.
Okay.
Got it.
With respect, yeah.
And let me see, I have one other question on the property information. This is several pages in. It's under paragraph 5, property description, historic review. Is there none required by either the HBDC or the Historical Commission? I think Catherine had told, not Catherine, Katie.
So it's not in the
Katie
HBDC.
Is this an historical? Well, certainly,
I mean,
it's more than 75 years old, so
it is old enough for historical, so they can comment on it, but we're assuming that this is going to be done under 40B, so,
that's why you put no?
yeah. I can update
I just
that
didn't
and
know.
write a note saying that the building is more than 175, and we can get comments from the Historic Commission through
Yeah,
the
I just
40B
didn't know.
process.
I think we've asked this question of Katie before, that it's not within an HBDC district, but the Historical Commission would have, ordinarily, they would have jurisdiction over it. But if it's a 40B, as you say, it's more advisory. One other thing, under the marketing and management plan, item 4, it talks about, giving local preference for the affordable units. That sentence doesn't mean to exclude that we could have local preference for the attainable units, right? We're going to do that too, as well as perhaps take advantage of the new statute, seasonal communities.
So local preference is specific to 40B affordable units, so it wouldn't be like local preference for the attainable units, but we'll do something with a preference for, say, school district employees based on seasonal communities. And
Are we not permitted to have local preference for attainables if we want?
You can't, not local preference as it's defined in 40B. So when we talk about local preference being 70% of the units for local, it's specifically under Chapter 40B, and it's specifically applicable only to the
Right.
80% AMI units and below.
But can't the town take the other 75% of the units and do whatever it wants with them?
Well, within fair housing law, yeah.
Yeah, well, I understand that. Yeah, but couldn't we say we want local preference for those?
So
However
it
we
wouldn't,
want to
it wouldn't
define
be
it.
called local preference.
However we want to define it, but.
Yeah, you can have the remaining units all be given preference for school district employees or something like that. But it's not, I can't say local preference.
I understand.
Yeah, we
That's a term, that's a defined term in.
But if I might,
Yeah, go ahead.
I think the point is, we would, in the lottery process, we have a ranking system, and the folks will meet the income criteria, et cetera. But if they also met residency criteria, school, kids in the school, worked in town, you know, blah, 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 they would get a point or two more than another applicant. We're allowed to do that for attainable,
We
correct?
are. So that would not go in the RFP. That would be
Yeah, no,
in
that's
the land
that's in the-
disposition
that's in-
agreement.
It's in the LDA, and it would be as part of the.
Exactly.
the
I just
lottery
wanted to make
process,
sure
but-
that that was not
No,
excluded.
but that's critical. That's why, that's critical.
Yeah.
And that's a very good point. I got a couple of.
The only other comment I have is I appreciate that there, in the building design talks about, and I think this is stated elsewhere, that renovation or preservation of the existing house is encouraged. That was something we
I
wanted.
tried to make that clear.
Yeah, you did. thought-
So I mean, I'm fine with this, with those edits. So anyway, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome, Mr.
Thank you,
Castro.
Gloria.
I have a couple, I just have one under the selection process, 9, Gloria.
Wait, where is that?
The selection process under number 9 in the RFP. I don't know, these pages aren't numbered, so.
Okay.
It starts an evaluation committee.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the last line, this may not be the proposal that achieves the highest score. This may not be the proposal with the lowest price. I think we want to say not highest price.
No, you want the highest price because they're offering to buy the property.
Wait.
Because they're going to give us a fee proposal for the purchase
it.
of this property.
I thought it was the other way around. Okay, thank you. Very good. Thank you. Mr. Metters.
Which reinforces the question I'm going to ask. So this is a lot. We've been crystal clear in multiple conversations, we want to preserve the playground. But the lot itself has a playground, a fence, and the residential components that exist now. We're going to redevelop it. There's questions about what the actual acreage of that property is. 2, what is going to be the safeguard? Is the playground parcel going to be carved off and incorporated into the elementary school? This is kind of one of those lingering questions that I'm surprised that we haven't kind of cleaned up in the last couple of years. But it really concerns me of what is the absolute safeguard for the playground?
Okay, so I didn't realize this was a lingering question because it's actually a really simple answer. So every time we have looked at this parcel, and it's true, we don't know the exact square footage because we've never had a survey. So when you follow, if you look on the aerial photograph, if you follow that fence line, which, I don't know if I can show you this, which goes down here behind the barn, cuts up around the playground and over. If you roughly follow that fence line and along Old Harbor Road and up the side, that's a little bit over 40,000 square feet of land. Ultimately, it's going to be surveyed, and ultimately, that portion, that 40,000 square feet from the fence line to the road, not including the playground, is going to have what's called an A&R plan, an approval not required plan, to kind of peel that parcel off. That's done during the 40B process. And so whoever, wins the development rights will do a survey, just like they did at Stepping Stones. So Stepping Stones wasn't carved off either. We didn't know an exact square footage of that. The winning proposer, Hack, performed a survey. As part of their 40B permit, they're going to be putting forward an A&R plan to be approved by the ZBA. The exact same thing's going to happen here. Once the developer gets out there, does a survey, we're going to know the exact square footage, and they're going to do an A&R to peel that off. So the remaining land is already school property. So nothing's going to change with that. It's just that part from the fence to the street that's going to be under new ownership. It's exactly what we're doing with Stepping Stones in exactly the same order.
Good. Ms. Potash.
Thank you for your work, Gloria. Are there going to be basements in these units?
Oh, I have no idea. So we didn't ask for them in this. If that's something that's really important, we can always put a preference for basements. So Hack, which did the proposal for Stepping Stones, proposed basements. As a contrast, Penrose, that did the rental projects, is not doing basements.
Yeah, because it's more storage, so you have to use less of the land, and we don't have a lot. So also, there's potential to tie in one of these existing sewers with gravity flow from the development, you say? Who's going to pay for that?
So that would be something that could be negotiated in the land disposition agreement, but I would say that typically that's something that the developer would pay.
It's not far, the connection's up.
It's not too far, and actually, the last time I really dug deep into this was when Dr. Bob was still here, actually, and he seemed to think that they could run, rather than even extending the main, just doing a sewer lateral down there. So I don't know what the current DPW director would think about this, but in my opinion, if Dr. Bob said a sewer lateral, but if Rob prefers a sewer main, we'll figure that out. But in either case, it's not very far.
So I think I would prefer to have basements. I think it's a better structure when a structure has a basement than a slab. That's just my opinion. Also, there's been no environmental assessment of the site. Is there one needed? And who's going to pay for that, and when's that going to happen?
So that's typically part of the land disposition agreement, and there's typically a clause in there that says, that talks about the due diligence of the developer. And in fact, when you do a land disposition agreement, you guys might remember you did, even before you executed the LDA, you did the right to entry, which is typically an attachment to the LDA, so that HAC could get a head start. So they went out, and as part of their due diligence, they did a phase 1, they did their surveying, and all of that. So that'll be worked into the LDA.
And also, passive housing would be preferred. Don't you think that should be required? Because we're talking about, affordable housing, so you want to try to keep the cost down as best you can.
I mean, we can say we want solar panels too, which is what we did in the
Well, I'm
LDA
always
for
going to be in
stepping
favor of
stones.
solar panels. I lose that argument at home, but I would like to see that, generally speaking. It's a great idea.
I would agree. Mr. DeCastro and then Mr. Smith, I think.
Just to modify something that Randy brought up, on the basements, I would suggest that it phrased as basements are encouraged
Okay.
rather than inquired, just give them the option, if that's agreeable with you.
It's agreeable to me, but I've seen RFPs in the past that say that things are required, and then they still seem to come in and try to beg things out. So I think, saying required, it's not going to mean that they're not going to come back with an argument, so.
I think I've got Mr. Smith. For the basement. Oh, go ahead, Mr.
Just for clarification, because I've seen their RPU designs, a basement with access through the interior or access through a bulkhead? Because I've seen them presented both ways. Is there a preference?
I think you guys are designing the project.
Right, so
What's that? I didn't hear you.
I think you guys are designing the project now as opposed to the
Well,
development.
I'm just telling you things
all
that
right.
have come up at CBA, and you already know that. So, there was a big deal about storage, outdoor storage, and enough of it. And if there's no basement and there's only a little bump out, it becomes an issue.
Yeah, and with the developer, it's going to come down to, to costs.
You got it.
And the fact is, we're in New England. Nobody should build a building on a slab.
Right.
We should have a basement for maintenance and storage and everything else.
Basement strongly encouraged.
We can say strongly encouraged, and maybe I can write something like, and provide justification if basements aren't provided.
There you go.
Something like that.
And then solar panels, yes. I don't mean to design it, but I think that's a prerequisite.
Sorry, Randy, I won that argument at my house. I'll tell you the tips. It's important, I think, for this project and future projects to get to unanimity as much as we can on the board. This one has had a significant amount of discussion regarding Ms. Ellis's will. I've supported this project because I felt that somewhere we needed to compromise because, we're trying to provide some attainable housing in the community. And I supported this project based on the fact that Ms. Ellis wanted to benefit the children with her property. We may not be legally required to undertake her according to counsel, her wishes any longer, but I think we morally are. And I don't know who would ever give us another piece of property if we're not going to honor these things. So that being said, can can you point to the page? I see bits and pieces, but it seems to have maybe I'm overthinking it, but I don't want it to slide sideways, that the affordable and the attainable are going to be geared toward, you can use the right phrases and help me out, towards the people who are going to buy these units, to the school department employees.
Sure.
I say department, district.
So if you look at the section affordability in perpetuity, I don't know what page it is. It looks like 1, 2, 3, page 4, bottom paragraph. It's the intention of the town to provide a preference for housing public employees necessary for the health and safety of maintaining a year-round community, including but not limited to teachers, public safety employees, and first responders, as well as individuals by vocation who produce or support artistic and literary activities, to the extent allowed under seasonal communities designation. So that language mirrors the seasonal communities language. If you want, we can put something clearer that it's a preference for school district employees as kind of like the first tier of preference.
That would be my preference, because that is at least this board attempting to honor her wishes, and I think that that would go a long way with the, with the legitimacy of this, so to speak, and
I can work something like that. The rationale behind the language like this is just to be general, saying, giving them a heads up, FYI, we're going to use seasonal communities to kind of target this housing. The real specifics of this would be worked out in the LDA. So, like, that's really the document where we're going to say, kind of like the LDA for stepping stones, where you said 6 of the units are going to be give preference to municipal employees. So, but I'm happy to do something a little bit clearer about school district employees here.
if you would, that would be, if the rest
Yeah,
of
no, I totally agree, and I think school district employees ought to get another point or two or whatever, so we can weight them in whatever kind of lottery ranking we do, or whoever the,
So that won't be part of the,
let's put it in the
RFP.
LDA.
It'll be in the LDA, right?
let's go.
Yeah, we just don't want to lose sight of that.
Into perpetuity, indeed.
Mandy.
Into perpetuity as well, for that preference.
Right,
Yeah.
very important.
I wasn't here for,
That's even more in sync with the will.
Yes, I wasn't here for any of what happened with the will, but I have very strong opinions on it that I'm not going to be able to express. But
We've talked.
I
I know
understand
what
my
they are.
colleagues' concerns, totally.
Yeah. All right, I'll work on that paragraph so that it's less general to seasonal communities and more specific to our desires to make this primarily for school district employees.
Yeah, and I know this doesn't go back to town meeting, right?
No.
So,
Well, in a way it does, because any attainable housing funding is going to need town meeting approval from the Attainable Housing Fund.
so it's important because we're going to be able to, I'll be able, and anyone else, make the argument legitimately that we are honoring her wishes. It may not be in the exact same scenario that in 1971 she wanted, but I think it goes a long way. You might consider numbering the pages, because I don't know, on page, land disposition agreement page, it says, 1, the development team. If you see that, do you
Wait, what
see?
is this?
It's under,
10,
And land,
post-selection,
Oh.
land disposition agreement,
okay. It's the,
right before the criteria, attachment A.
yep, with the selected proposal,
This
the
is,
LTA will be finalized after the selection process must be a form acceptable to the town. Okay, form. Okay.
so it's under proposal submission requirements. Thinks it's 7,
Oh,
under development team.
okay.
The first paragraph, including the project manager and the experience of these parties, the development team may include, without limitation, the developer, the property manager, the architect, the contractor, the engineers, the consultants, leaders,
Lenders.
lenders, and investors. Is that public, is that, the investors publicly available? Is that a list that's publicly available?
So we've had this particular language in every RFP that I've done for you guys. So Main Street, Meeting House Road, stepping stones. I think that some of the proposals that we got for Main Street and Meeting House Road included preliminary letters from lenders. But it's not, I mean, I think that's the closest we've gotten to having, lenders here. I haven't seen any quote-unquote investors listed.
Ever?
Not here.
I'm just wondering for transparency whether that's a wise thing to consider for the future. I'm not going to fall on my sword tonight about that, but something for you to consider because I think it would go a long way for transparency.
Wait, what do you mean consider? Like taking it out or?
No, including the ability for the public to see who the investors are.
Well, and
Well, it does.
That's what I'm asking. I didn't
Well,
see that.
Item B, the names and primary responsibilities of each individual on the development team. So they'd be identified.
Well, but Gloria just said that, that language also is in Main Street and Meeting House Road. So those investors that have I know it's a different project, but those investors, those names are printed somewhere and the public can see those.
I've seen letters from banks saying, yes, we're going to back these guys with X amount of dollars.
Yeah.
And it's included in there.
So all those investors are listed.
Well, the banks
That's
have
the
been listed.
question.
So I don't know how I can force someone to list all their investors. And I think that a lot of times they don't really know who all their investors are when they're doing their application. A lot of times, so I would say that most of the financing package, not for stepping stones because that's financed largely through the town, but if you have a proposal like Penrose's, which is financed primarily through low-income housing tax credits, their financing package, they haven't even put that together yet. Like, they don't have their investors yet. They're gonna get their tax credits first, and then this is reflected in the LDA. This is why they have something like a year after they get tax credits to get their entire financing package together. So I think that we may know some investors up front if it's like a more like small local nonprofit. I think that if it's a bigger organization, and I think if they're using tax credits, I think that it's really unlikely that you're gonna get that information in a proposal.
Okay, and that was, it was just a question. So the fact that we're not going to get a list of the investors isn't surprising to me. I just I wasn't certain under this project.
Mr. Nicastro.
Just on the subject of the investors, if I could interject. I mean, Corey's correct. The first paragraph says the development team may include investors. Then you've got B, proposals must include the names and primary responsibilities of each individual on the development team. So if you list investors, they're supposed to give us that information.
Yep.
That's all. Whether they've, what's happened in the past in terms of identifying, I don't know. I can't speak to it, but that's, Mr. Love has a.
Yes, Mr. Love, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate what Gloria said, that it's a little bit chicken and egg, which is that typically all the investors aren't lined up for the proposal phase themselves because of the sources of capital and the steps that have to be taken. So 99% of development entities aren't going to have all the investors lined up during the proposing phase.
Yep, okay. Thank you.
We're getting conflicting answers, but I'm thinking the answer is no. So be it.
I mean, it's possible that we'll know some investors and they could list them, but it's also possible we won't. I mean, we can only get as much information as, as they have.
Okay, I guess.
So we have an RFP before us. Are we comfortable with endorsing the RFP to go out on the timetable described in the?
With those changes, I am, yes.
Yeah, with the six units, yeah, the 3 changes, and we noted. I'm sure Kathy got them, we got them. Okay, would you like to make a motion, please?
I move approval of the RFP with the changes that we have requested this evening.
And a second.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Smith.
Aye.
Mr. Nicastro.
Aye.
Ms. Potash.
Aye.
Mr. Metters.
Aye.
And the chair says aye as well. Thank you, Gloria, and thank you to the team.
You're welcome. Would you like me to actually come back with the with the changes, or do you want me to just send out the RFP once changes are made?
You
for
don't need to
review?
do that. You understand where we're headed.
Yeah, you can just show a red line. Just show a red line before it gets distributed.
Okay.
Just show a red line of the changes that the board has made to,
And then she can just
Yeah.
copy us?
yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. Our next item is our update on a recycling program that I requested back in April. There was a summary report. It certainly looks like recycling is gangbusters. However, it looks like the revenues are a question mark. But anyway, it's very insightful, Rob. And just if you would quickly walk us through it, I'd really appreciate it. I know there are folks that have approached me and asked specific questions about recycling. And there may be follow-up questions on glass versus plastic versus blah, blah, blah. But I think this is a good summary. Thank you very much. The podium's yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, so just to reiterate, yes, this is an update requested by you back in April. So markets for recycled material continue to adjust since that disruption back in 2018 when China refused to put a ban on foreign waste materials. So domestic recycling is still evolving, adjusting as markets continue to expand and improve upon. This spreadsheet is part of your packet, but I've kind of broken it down in a PowerPoint, so it's a little bit easier to follow instead of trying to look at a spreadsheet. But let me go to presentation mode, I think. Here we go. So it also shows, whether it's a cost for the town or generates revenue and the values placed on those items. So we'll move forward. Apologize. Here we go. So book donations, that's collected by Bay State Books. You see like the last 3 years, it's been pretty consistent. There's no charge for this, no revenue generated. They just take the books off our hands. So it's pretty straightforward.
A lot of books.
Clothing donations, we have a variety of bins down at the transfer station for Planet Aid, Salvation Army, Red Cross, hand-me-downs, and Bay State Textiles. All of those facilities, all those organizations, they remove the clothing and textiles free of charge. Bay State Textiles actually pays us $100 a ton, so we do generate a little bit of revenue off of Bay State Textiles. Mixed paper and cardboard. Mixed paper, you can see the tonnage is going down over time. The cost to dispose that is $130.75 a ton. That's the current price. It has been relatively consistent over the last 3 years. Cardboard is quite a bit, 290 tons roughly each year. We actually pay to dispose of that. That's $5 a ton. The cost is down from $40 a ton revenue. Although we do partner with with one of the haulers and one of the commercial haulers, they bring in bound cardboard. It's already packaged, and that does actually make a little bit of money for us. We take it off their hands. We're still able to get rid of that and make a little bit of money.
Paper recyclers aren't interested in receiving the cardboard? There's nobody in that business per se?
We do have newspaper recycling.
Okay.
But not mixed paper. Mixed paper is
not cardboard?
For cardboard, yeah, zero waste, but not for loose cardboard.
Okay.
Just bound and bundled cardboard. And they usually come in big, blocks in a commercial binder outside of a business that would bind it.
I was just going to say on cardboard, I've noticed an interesting trend because, I'm there on a regular basis disposing on my cardboard for my business, but I'm noticing some of the products that I'm receiving, they're changing the packaging for less cardboard. They're definitely shrinking things down. Same type of, spoons. They used to be a big box, a lot of loose air. They're shrinking everything down. So I don't know if that's something to do with the market or not, but I'm seeing a very distinct change in packaging this season on a lot of products that has the same item but in a smaller package, so.
Yeah, whether that has to do with shipping or just something else, it's a great question. It's a great observation. Plastic and single stream, costs continue to rise in both of these areas. Single stream's a little bit lower, which is a little surprising considering the sorting that needs to occur at the point of delivery. Went to a conference earlier in the year that Mass Recycles put on, and they were talking about how single stream, or they had used robotics and AI to really sort through the single stream on the conveyor belts, and they use puffs of air to blow out plastic and little robotic fingers to move things around. So it's not the days of all people lined up on the conveyor belts to sort by hand. Those are going by the wayside just because of the value of labor. So they're really embracing technology. But our costs are rising. So plastic is $160.50 per ton. It went up from $110 just 2 years ago. Single stream is $144 a ton, up from $121 2 years ago. So those, we're not seeing a lot of relief. Message here is, if you can stop using plastic, stop using plastic. I think that's the best thing. You can only recycle it once. You have to mix virgin product to keep recycling. So it's just like this never-ending animal, and eventually you've got to put it in a landfill or incinerate it sooner or later. So it's not a good resource.
Just a quick question there, Rob. So the plastic that we segregate in our homes and we bring to the dump, we throw in the plastic bin, that either is buried or burned?
No, it's recycled.
Okay.
But you can only recycle plastic so many times and
Okay.
there's not a lot of value in it. I know we do the boat wrap recycling.
Yes.
We did a podcast on that. They use that to create like little nurdles, they call them. They're little pellets of plastic, and they use those to make plastic lids on coffee cans.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a lot of market out there, but the quality of the plastic degrades over time when you start recycling it. So there's not a lot of use for it after a while. Tin cans and metal. Metal always generates revenue for us. Unlike plastic, it can be recycled over and over again into new products. Tin cans have been relatively consistent at a little over 20 tons every year. We generate $280 a ton in revenue. That's been pretty consistent. For just metal, bulk metal, depending on which vendor we bring it to, it makes either $160 to $175 per ton. That market's a little bit more unstable. It fluctuates, but it always does generate revenue for us. Brush, we take that to locally. We keep it local in Chatham, TW Nickerson. It's been $115 per load for years. Mulch piles at the transfer station, which you've all seen the wing rows down there. They take that free of charge, and then they return some processed mulch that we give out to residents for no charge. So there is a good recycling program that's local for that.
Mr. Smith.
Sure, thank you, Jeff. This is kind of an issue that we've chatted about as too. So what happens when TW Nickerson closes? Where are we going?
We'd have to really start looking at other avenues. That would be a challenge for us,
Yeah.
especially to keep it local.
Right.
I mean, we have other areas. We have other vendors in Harwich and Dennis. We'd be able to take it to. It's just more gas, more fuel, more time for labor.
Yeah.
I don't know what their rates are currently, so it would be another partnership we'd have to explore.
It's interesting because I always try to look at the bigger picture on some of these issues, and it's like, okay, we're going to close TW because the wood is hazardous somehow, and we're going to make it conservation land, but we're going to spend more money, more resources, more CO into the atmosphere trucking it to Dennis or wherever we end up trucking it. Yeah, this could be a big issue for you folks.
It could be. It's something to think about, absolutely.
Yeah, because that's coming. Thank you.
Yep, just Greg,
Mr. Berman.
Director of Natural Resources, thank you. Just wanted to chime in a little bit. Looks like we don't have 2026 yet. I don't know how much from that storm is going to really bump up that number. That was one thing that was brought when we were talking about TW Nickerson and wood waste. These potential for a large tropical storm to come in and, double, triple, quadruple that number in a single event. The select board did give town staff a charge to look at how we might be able to keep TW Nickerson, and we are working with town council on that.
Yeah, and we got a preliminary feedback, and it seems like it's a very large task. So I was thinking of, what the alternatives are, and the alternatives, I think the people that might think that closing TW is a good thing for the environment. I think when you look globally, it's probably not. It's great locally, perhaps, but not when you look at the bigger picture.
When the hazardous part is the buried stumps before it gets
wood
fixed up.
Yeah, right.
And just as a point of reference, I think it was just under 100 loads that we brought to TW Nickerson after the winter storm.
Wow. Wait till you
Both from the town's right-of-way and from residents.
Right.
remember Hurricane Bob.
I do.
There was a lot of brush around
1992, yeah, it was.
for months.
Yep. Okay, Rob.
Okay, wrapping up here. Sorry, it's been a late night for you.
Yeah, it has.
Mattresses collected by hand up. So we used to have a vendor, Ace Mattress. Their cost was $10 each, but we had a lot of fouled mattresses, and then their cost was $90 each for us to get rid of a fouled mattress. This company, hand up, $24.50 each. Very rarely do we get a fouled mattress. Fouled was if they were left out in the rain and they were moisture laden or mildew and mold, that kind of thing. They can absorb a lot of water, and it still takes a lot to get them fouled. So we've had really good success with hand up this past year. Newspaper, Miller Recycling, it's a money generator for us, but I'm surprised the numbers are as steady as they are, because it seems like people aren't reading as many newspapers as they used to, but we will still generate $105 per ton of revenue. Excuse me. Glass, we bring that to Dennis. They have a grinder there. It can be recycled, clear glass can be recycled into fiberglass insulation or other glass products. There's lesser uses for mixed glass, but we pay $25 a ton to dispose of glass. And then this is the other slide that's in your agenda packet. It summarizes costs and revenues and the impacts on the budget. So typically, as we balance everything out, we're looking at roughly $65,000 to $70,000 a year just to get rid of our recycling material.
That's a subsidy, if you will, yeah.
And then this just the overall tonnage of recycling over the past 3 years. Chatham is a very good community for recycling. Very strong recycling numbers. Costs continue to escalate, and we just always try to find new and creative ways to reuse and recycle.
Mr. DeCastro.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for putting this on the agenda. It's very informative, and thank you, Rob, for putting it together. I think it showed to me how complex this whole operation is at the transfer station. I think a lot of us think you just go up there, you drop your stuff off, and you guys somehow know what to do with it. A lot of ramifications here. I just had a question. I no longer have a transfer station sticker because I use a hauler. So if someone wanted to deposit clothing at Planet Aid or Red Cross, do they need a sticker to get into the station to do that?
I believe they still need a recycling sticker to get in.
Recycling sticker, okay. All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other questions for Rob?
Sure, I just had one, and I don't really expect an answer tonight, I guess, but what, I see some improvements taking place at the transfer station now. I assume that those improvements are going to help with recycling. I don't know, one would think. So what else can we do to lower our costs? And I guess in order to lower the cost, we would want to improve the recycling, right? Is that, because if it goes into the general building, the big building, well, that costs even more to get rid of, right?
Right, and then it goes to CMAS. So all the recycling material, we haul ourselves. A lot of those places are off Cape. They're just over the bridges. But everything that goes in the blue building is the tipping building. That goes to CMAS and gets incinerated. We contract a hauler to come and take our trailers and bring them up to Rochester and to CMAS.
Right, and when it goes to CMAS, it goes through a conveyor belt and the robot, as you just described?
No. It's all incinerated and used for energy, renewable energy.
What about my aluminum can? It doesn't get
If it's thrown in that building, it's all grouped together. I mean, we handle that stuff, so if somebody like throws an air conditioning unit, we'll fish it out.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah, typically everything in there is going to the incinerator.
So, not to put words in your mouth, but, so there's nothing more we can do to improve recycling? It's discouraging.
No, I encourage recycling.
Oh, I know, but it's discouraging to me that we can't do better.
Again, I think it's, plastic is probably the bane of all recycling. It's
Yeah.
the biggest challenge that we have,
Right, right.
just the cost for disposal or recycling,
So get rid of your plastics.
if you can. And it's not just plastic bottles, it's not, it's cheap toys that are
Oh, yeah.
used for a week
Right.
and then discarded, it's all that stuff that it ends
everything.
up. The vast majority of plastic that is put into the recycling stream is recycled. I know there's a lot of rumors out there. I think the numbers are around 85 to 87% of all plastic that makes it to the recycling stream is recycled. The media likes to hold that maybe 6% of plastic is recycled, but they're looking at every plastic out there, car dashboards, things that realistically you'd probably never recycle anyway. They're looking at everything, and they grab a hold of that and they try to put a negative spin on it. But very, very vast majority of all the plastics that are recycled are actually recycled.
And those, they can only be recycled so many times,
So many
right?
times.
And then what happens?
And then it winds up incinerated or a landfill or wherever it goes. But I'd like to also add that, everybody used to have they use a lot of hot water and clean out like a peanut butter jar and that kind of thing and have it crystal clean to be recycled.
Yeah.
That's not the case. The robotic arm just needs to identify it as a clear piece of plastic, something that can be recycled. It could be wiped out with a piece of paper towel, and that's good enough.
And then I'll be quiet, but I think I do go to the transfer station. I haven't been this summer, but I do normally go. And I got to tell you, those workers are some of the hardest working people that we've got in this in this government from a labor perspective. They don't stop, and if they stop, something goes really badly wrong. Things begin to back up. Thank you.
I appreciate that, and if you don't mind, I'll share that with them as well.
Yeah, and, and congenial, friendly, helpful, knowledgeable, all the above. Every single time I go there. Phenomenal staff, great staff.
Great.
And, we're making some improvements as we go. Thank you, Rob. That was great,
Thank
very
you.
informative. I think it's good news on glass, good news on on metal, if you will. There's some good news there. Okay. Next item on the agenda is a town waterfront projects update, request by Stuart Smith. This was requested back in April. It is updated in our package, and Jill's town manager's report every month. So, Stuart, if there's something particular you're looking for that's not in the package or you need information on, I'd appreciate that. And Catherine, take it away. But every single project is listed here.
Hi, Catherine Ricks, Coastal Resilience Director. And I will update you on the town waterfront projects, mainly going to stick to the more active and larger projects. So for town waterfront projects, this is just a short list of what we have going. 90 Bridge Street waterfront facility, Barn Hill Landing improvements, Little Mill Pond pier replacement, Riders Cove landing improvements, different projects at the Fish Pier, Jackknife Beach living shoreline, the town-wide dredging, Morris Island Tide Gate, Port Fortune Beach access stairs, Battlefield parking and drainage, Bucks Creek shoaling, Frost Fish Creek marsh restoration culvert replacement, the Riders Herring Run Route 28 culvert replacement, and then kayak racks and dinghy rails at various town landings when we're cleaning up the dinghies that are left there. And there are other projects that kind of come up, smaller ones as well. And all these projects are really done collaboratively within the Department of Natural Resources. Greg Berman's the Director of Natural Resources. I'm Director of Coastal Resilience. We have Jason Holm as the Harbor Master, Marshall Burke as the Deputy Harbor Master, Renee Gagne as the Shellfish Constable, Ben Sacco as the Assistant Shellfish Constable, Paul Whiteman as the Conservation Agent, and Bradford Bauer as the Assistant Conservation Agent. So this is a project schedule I've been working to put together with some new software to kind of get an overall picture of the projects. And I know you might not be able to read it all here. I have added this to the Coastal Resources website, so you can see that there, and I will be updating it as we go. It is some new software that I'm using, and this kind of shows I started back to 2025 with the 90 Bridge Street since the first phase started back there. And you can kind of see how far some of these go out.
Catherine?
Yep.
You are my new best friend.
This is really good.
Been asking for this for over a decade. This is fantastic. And the fact that you're posting it is just going to be very helpful. And I hope that through these discussions, the other projects that we're doing can be similarly handled so the public can monitor them.
Yep.
Thank you.
So in addition to the project scheduling, and I know you probably can't read this, this is available if anyone would like this. When the committees have meetings, like the water-related committees, the Waterways Advisory Committee, South Coastal, Shellfish, they request updates on the projects. I have a spreadsheet that's a couple pages long.
Yep.
And I try to update this. I bold what is the new status update with the dates and present this and give this to the committee members so that people can stay updated on them. Now I'll go into a few of the projects that we have going on. So 90 Bridge Street's a pretty big project with the waterfront facility going in there. This has been divided into multiple phases. Phase 1 was the bulkhead installation, and that one was completed with $1.52 million. Phase 2, which included the concrete wharf, the ramps, the floats, and the extension of the timber pier, that is estimated to be completed at $3.1 million. It's substantially complete. There's just a couple more things to be done. That was RBO. RBO is still on site and will be completing that with some of the ramp revisions probably by the end of the year or by January 2027.
RBO is Robert B. Hour.
Robert B. Hour, sorry.
Yep, it's okay.
And so then Phase 3A has started, and that's the renovation of the historic boathouse and the construction of the bathhouse. So that is underway. This goes through the Phase 1, Phase 2, and you can see into the Phase 3, the renovations have started on the boathouse that's there, and they have actually put the foundation in for the bathhouse that's on site. So Phase 3B and C. Phase 3B is the majority of the equipment, including generator, pumps, silos, that go into the seawater system portion of this project. Under the MDR grant funds, we were reimbursed so far for $580,000. We had to spend a certain amount within the FY26 and extend 25% of it into FY27. So we were able to purchase a lot of the equipment. We did initially put the seawater system out to bid, and the bids that came back were a little high. So some of the town staff actually looked into ways to save money, and Shellfish, Renee, was able to save $30,000 by purchasing, by researching and doing procurement for 5 submersible pumps, which is similar to the system they use now, over the single pump that was in the initial design of the seawater system. And Jason was able to research davits and save over $111,000 on purchasing davits through that, instead of under the bids that came back in that initial one. So it is being redesigned currently with town staff and the engineer, and it will go out to bid later this year, and we are hoping to have a cost estimate under the previous one. And the schedule is we're still keeping to the schedule to have the entire place open next April. Riders Cove Landing improvements. I know this one has been in design for a while. We are in the design permit phase. So it's kind of the final design and getting it through permitting. The design and permit is estimated to be $134,000 with the construction estimate of $3.5 million. The design is to do a bulkhead replacement, shift the ramp alignment for safer launch, optional bathroom in the renovated storage shed, and additional floats. can be kind of difficult to see. This is the proposed over the existing. The blue is the existing ramp. The gray with the red outline is the proposed ramp with a different alignment. And you can see the floats on the left side or the upper side of that, the floats that are going to be new along the ramp, and then additional floats in comparison to what the existing floats are there. So in addition to the landing improvements that are down by the bulkhead and the floats, we were able to finish the extension of the parking spaces, the trailer spaces, with our DPW guys getting out there and doing that. So they were able to complete that project this May.
That looks good.
That was a bone of contention 20 years ago when they first built it. We argued that forever. This is a huge improvement.
Yeah.
If you went back one slide, because I think it's important. Well, first of all, the floats on the west side are idle.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be very similar to Stage Harbor, where you'll be able to tend your boat when you get in the.
Yep.
On the east side, it looks like, and I sort of remember this, that we're getting rid of the riprap and replacing it with bulkhead. Am I seeing this correctly? There is some riprap stone. Is that staying or going?
For riders,
Yeah, it looks like it's gone. It looks like.
so part of what you're seeing here is a cofferdam to do the ramp in the dry.
Yeah.
So that corrugated line is actually cofferdam.
Okay, so that comes
So I
out.
don't know if that's what you're,
Well, it is, so that clarifies that.
oh, and then I know what you're, yes. We are putting the bulkhead all along the ramp instead of having that riprap that's,
And it's a plastic material as opposed to steel nowadays, I'm sure.
this one I believe is FRP, which is.
Yeah. Great, thank you.
Yep. Little Mill Pond Pier replacement, and this one is the pier at higher tides, the pier is underwater at certain storm events. So it's the elevation of the pier and redoing the pier, which needs to be redone at this point. It's deteriorating. With this project, we also added doing stormwater. So NRCS provides funds for stormwater improvements when it's improving shellfish area, which in this case, the stormwater is coming down and just rushing into the salt marsh in that shellfishing area. So this project added the stormwater redesign, and we are currently in that phase. The pier design is pretty much ready to go to permitting, but we wanted to include the stormwater. So this is our draft, the draft plan for the stormwater features that will go in there with the pier. So the pier is not changing locations or extension of that, but the stormwater will be different, and there will be a bulkhead with the cap along that in order to infiltrate most of the stormwater before it goes into the salt marsh.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, please.
So the pier is going to be, it could, but it's not going to be any longer?
It's not going to be any longer, it's going to be higher.
Well, I have concerns about how much higher? Is it like
Can't remember.
a foot or 6 feet?
A couple feet.
Well, we had this debate.
It's gone back and forth, I know.
Yeah, and you know, we had this debate when we were doing the South Jog. I forever had discussions with my two compatriots, and we compromised on the bulkhead and the South Jog's height. But you know, we can't raise these structures so they become unusable for the general public, not to mention the mainly the fishing community. So, you know, we decided, at least at the pier, that we would design that to go underwater frequently, which it does. So be it. I mean, I'm not sure that I don't have a lot of issue with that. What I do have issue is that South Jog bulkhead was proposed to be several feet higher than it is now, and that was not acceptable just because then it doesn't become usable.
Yeah.
The lobstermen and the gills.
Yeah, it's the balance between keeping it a working waterfront and a working pier and the sea level rise. So we're not going up to we're going to make it so that it's still accessible. We're trying to make it ADA accessible and go up enough so that it's elevated, since we know the sea level is rising.
Yeah.
So it's elevated enough above that, but we're not trying to elevate it to a 2070 sea level rise or anything like that. We're not going up 6 feet or anything that would make it
Right.
unusable, or we're not trying to make a staircase up to the pier or anything like that.
Well, as long as you're keeping that in, in context, I favor that when we design these and permit these structures, that we, don't make them more difficult to work out of. So if they go underwater, especially in Little Mill Pond, who cares?
And we've been working with the committees. We've been bringing the designs and the updated designs to the water-related committees. This one will be going to Shellfish, I believe, this week or next week.
Oh, good. The access on the northwest corner here by the parking lot, you've got 3 parking spaces. There has been traditionally small boat access there with, a rudimentary boat ramp. What's happening with that?
That is one thing we are working on. We brought to the committees any type of kind of a kayak launch or a type of dinghy launch off to the side, and it wasn't really approved or requested from the committees. They wanted to see just the pier get extended. I don't know if Jason wants to speak to that.
If I may, Jason Holm, Harbor Master. General consensus of the Waterways Advisory Committee, we presented them with a couple of different possible options for dinghy access. It would complicate the permitting access to it, and the designs was pushing well past the marsh area. So it was kind of infringing on a couple of other areas. So the consensus and feedback that we got from them was just basically build in kind as far as what the pier is, just so we could get the thing built because it's in such a bad condition. We couldn't really continue access on the, on the west side of it because it's all marshland. And so they're trying to reclaim a lot of that there with the bulkhead across. So the general idea was that people would carry their dinghies, for instance, down the pier, which isn't necessarily ideal. But that was the lesser of two evils. I think we had 2 to 3 different options for different ways to launch it, including having a gradual ramp similar to what we had at Taylor's Pond. But it would reduce the width of the dock to try to keep within the permitting of the process. Another one was an offshoot ramp going down a little further out, which again kind of complicated the permitting issues a little bit. So that was been the general feedback was, at least from the water-related committees that I've been involved in with this, was to keep it in kind. I believe the elevation was like 1 foot that they were looking to elevate this. I don't want to be quoted on it, but I think it was somewhere around 1 foot as far as raising it. But that was the general consensus as far as dinghy access.
Yeah, I think that I'll speak to some of the committee members. I think they're not seeing the bigger picture here. We only have so many access points, and this one's important. And it wasn't only for dinghies. People have put boat trailers down there in the past. So it used to be far more substantial than it is now. It's just been left to deteriorate. And now, the length of the pier, when I was working, we talked about extending the length of that pier because of the water depth. And of course, dredging is probably not viable there. What became of that?
As far as I know, when I took it over, it was that we were trying to stay within, when it comes to permitting and modifications, if you can stay within that 10% on the state permits, it's a minor modification.
Right.
And trying to stay within those bounds when it comes to permitting to make it go through a little faster on that way.
Well,
We chewed into the 10% too with the
Yeah.
float on the end.
What's that?
When we expanded the float on the end, it chewed into the 10% of the permit for that pier as well. I forget the dimensions it used to be, but we went with a 20 by 20, which was,
I think it was 18 by 18.
I think so. So we ate into some of that 10% per se. With the float. I'd have to look to see, what the increase was, but that was part of it as well.
We built this through the CFIP grants in 1981, and so it's going to be with us for a while, and this one presumably that was a very good, well-built pier, but I'm assuming that we have better materials and it's going to last longer. personally, I would take the time that may be required to build the right pier as opposed to doing it quickly to, to avoid any permitting issues. I would absolutely take advantage of every square inch of that 10% and move that pier further out because it's very shallow and we have no places for dinghies anywhere. Food for thought, but that's what back not too many years ago, that was the discussion, was to take advantage of that and move it out. And yeah, it's a minor mod, no big, not a big as deal as a new permit.
Yeah.
I don't think a new permit is required. I think it doesn't take a lot of length to get to better water. And that is what I heard from a number of fishermen who use the area.
And we can have the engineer look into because there are some requirements on overall size of the piers when it comes to commercial or industrial piers too. So I don't believe we're at that extent. I believe it could be bigger, but I'd have to look into that or have the engineer look
And you got
into
plenty
that.
of width.
Well, I think that's what they were looking at, is reducing width to extend length for that 10%.
That's something the committee should chat about, but you've got a lot of width. Nobody's driving out there,
Yeah.
hopefully.
Okay, we good?
Okay, Barn Hill Landing improvements. So we're in the design and permit phase on this one as well. It's going to include the 3 sides being replaced with bulkhead. There is, at this point, 2 of the sides plus a little bit on the north side that's bulkhead. So now all of it is going to be 3 sides of a bulkhead, additional finger floats, and all of this to get a safer launch. Design and permit is estimated at $72,000. Construction estimate is $2 million. So this is what we have currently for the design. You can see the boat ramp, and the biggest change is that the bulkhead, the stone riprap will be removed on that side, replaced with the bulkhead, and where that concrete walk goes, that concrete walk will go into finger floats. So they're the smaller floats, but then people, when they're launching, can actually walk their boat all the way around to the front, which makes it a lot safer. And those are the biggest concerns that people have down there, is when you're launching, at this point, you're walking on rocks or trying to walk around the front of the bulkhead. So this was brought to all the committees, and they really wanted the floats going across there.
Yeah, hugely important. That riprap was just because they ran out of money in 1982. The 2 finger floats totally get the operational need for that. So the shellfish community feels that they can use to the south, the rest of that bulkhead adequately.
Yep, there's still access to the rest of that bulkhead there.
And the float that's there now remains.
Yes, I have that on the next. So so in doing this, we've also had some improvements to the floats, and the Harbor Master's office
Already?
was able to construct brand new floats, because we had a problem with one of the piles broke last season, and we needed to replace those, and they looked into the floats, and they built them and had ACK help them with the piles and install the floats, so those are out there now.
Yeah, they look great.
No red and yellow lines, I know, but that's.
So if there's any questions on the projects further.
No, I just, I would just want to make sure we get the culvert done under Route 28 for the herring run. I just want to make sure that that's ascendant and that we keep on it. I know that
Yeah.
it was a sinkhole. I've mentioned it 2 or 3 times, but it's our only herring run. It's our
Yeah.
only herring run, and we got to take care of it.
I appreciate the update. I think that this is much more comprehensive and important and clarity for the public than, I don't use it derogatory, but buried in the monthly report is people just don't see that. They see this, that chart that you pointed, huge. And I think if we used it for all the projects in town, you could people want to know something, you go to instead of Budget Central, it's Project Central, and they have that timeline and what's going on, I think would be very helpful. The concern is that the board is not, that I've heard from the public, is not overseeing these projects as closely as they should be. So anyway, that's great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Catherine, I thought that was a great, great presentation. The Gantt charts are wonderful. They really are informative. That's what they're supposed to do, you know, the steps by time and by project. So it's really good. So a great presentation. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Mr. Castro.
the staff memo suggests a motion, but is that really needed?
I
I don't think so.
don't think so.
Okay.
Do we accept a report or approve the progress report? I mean, I think it's all good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We've been asked to consider a comment letter, and that has been brought to our attention. I was at a Shellfish Advisory Committee meeting, virtual meeting this week, where they decided that it would be prudent not to submit this letter, and they voted not to submit this letter at the Shellfish Advisory Committee meeting. So we can take this right off the agenda, and there's no action suggested on our part, okay? And I just want to let you know, it was a very good meeting, very thoughtful conversation, and they don't want to poke the bear. Okay. And then, last but not least, we have Town Council Services request for qualifications. We did get 4 packages with our agenda, paper packages, and I just wanted to talk about the interview process and the scheduling thereof. I have an opinion, I have a distinct opinion. I've gone through them pretty carefully, and I would like to only interview 3 out of the 4 folks that submitted qualifications, KP, Talaman, and Murphy Hess Toomey. So that's my opinion, but I wanted to hear from the board, and I also wanted to hear, typically what we've done in the past is we've decided on a Saturday morning, 9 to 11:30, 45 minutes apiece, 15 minutes for discussion thereafter with a grid that we kind of fill out. And we have been very efficient in the past, but we do need some sequestered time to do so. Mr. Nacastro.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I agree with you. I'm perfectly comfortable with interviewing those 3 firms. And I agree with the Saturday. I've watched one session back in 2012 when I was on the Finance Committee out of pure interest. I think you did that one on a Saturday as well. And then we did it 2 years ago, and I think the process worked fine. We made a decision, unanimous decision, immediately afterward, after we discussed and excused the firms. An hour, 45 minutes to an hour apiece is fine if we're going to have 3 firms. There are certain Saturdays when I'm not available, but I'm perfectly comfortable doing them. I can indicate those dates when we get to that point. But whenever we'd like to put this on the agenda, that's fine with me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Castro. Mr. Smith?
So we just got these package.
Just last week.
Last week. So I'm not finished reading them. There's a lot of material there, but the 4th, so I haven't gotten to the 4th.
Okay.
Who is the 4th?
It's
Doremus.
Brooks and Durensis.
Brooks and Durensis. Brooks and Durensis.
And maybe you don't want to say, but we wouldn't interview them because they're not qualified?
I would say it.
That's my opinion. And
okay.
I mean, my opinion.
I can give you my opinion.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so I don't think that we should interview them because they admittedly aren't familiar with the town. And when I read through their materials, I didn't notice that they are willing to become intimately informed about the town. They just say, right now, we'd rather have a pay. We don't want to do a retainer. We want to get paid by the hour because we don't really know what your needs are. And so I think that they should have looked into what our needs are, should have done their homework. So I wasn't impressed with that statement. And I also am not impressed with their bench right now. They're great attorneys, especially in their day. One of them was actually the founding partner of KP Law.
KP, yeah.
But I don't see them as a deep bench, so I just don't think that they're right for the town.
And where are they out of?
Boston.
Boston.
Yeah.
Atlantic Avenue.
Yeah.
And you have a similar feeling?
I have only skimmed the documents. I haven't gone through in great detail. I did look to see who the attorneys were at the different firms and how much money they were going to charge the town and whether they could do retainers. They interviewed back in, well, I don't know if it was the same firm or the same name, but the principal who signed the letter interviewed back in 2012. Impressive background. I myself didn't see it as a good fit for the town, but he's listed only as the backup. I don't know the attorney they're listing as, anything about the attorney they're listing as the lead counsel on it. I mean, I'd have no, I guess what we could do, Stuart, if after you've looked at all four and you want to include that fourth firm, you know, maybe I could change my mind when I read the whole material.
Okay.
We could request that and add that in.
Sure.
It would lengthen the meeting, but that's fine with me.
That's fine.
Could I make one other comment? 'Cause I
Yes, you can.
neglected-
Yeah, go ahead.
I would like this meeting to be, it's an open meeting, but I think it should be in the nature of a workshop with no public comment. We haven't had public comment in the past, and I'd like to follow that. But anybody is welcome to attend it, I think. So I hope that would be the format.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Metters?
I mean, I'm still going through the packets. I don't have any strong feeling about excluding one party over the other. I don't have as much background on some of them that you guys do, so I'm still kind of fishing through that. And, you know, we've done it on Saturdays before. If we could just try to keep it 9 to 12, that would be greatly appreciated. But I'm fine with Saturday, too.
Okay, good. So we'll look for a Saturday where,
When did you want to do this, Mr. Chair? Did you want to do it in, we're obviously not going to do it in August, I don't think.
probably in September sometime, Saturday in September, late September.
Okay. I'm available, Kathy, September 12th, September 26th, and October 10th.
Anyone?
But not available. on the
26th or
other-
10th?
Those are all Saturdays.
Okay. 26th or 10th?
The 10th is, well,
That's in August. I mean, that's in October.
October.
yeah.
Well, why don't we shoot for, see if they can come September 26th.
Yeah, that might.
Okay.
And then you guys got to let,
It's Columbus Day weekend, I think, isn't it, around it?
yeah.
Yes.
So in terms of the number of interviewees, you know, you asked me why. I agree with Randy. The bandwidth there is not the bandwidth I want for the town, and I didn't feel the presentation, the RFQ, the response was as as deep, broad, informative at all compared to the other ones. So I have interviewed them before, and I think it was like to be honest with you, I thought it was a throw-in, RFQ. Oh, let's throw in to Chatham. So that's the sense I get.
One more thing?
Yes.
Good, Mr. Chair. So as far as the public input, I'm not going to comment on whether or not they should be at a meeting, but what about providing the public with the materials that we have? So at least at the end of our decision, they see what was presented to us and why perhaps they could even imagine why we picked the firms that we picked.
Well, Mr. Chair, can't that be
Please.
be posted when the meeting is posted? Those materials can be included. If anybody
Sure.
had a comment they wanted to submit to us, they could send an email
Sure.
to us and so forth.
Sure.
That's what we did last time. We had it posted for the
Great.
interviews,
It
and
was all open and
We have-
above board. It's just that it was in
Sure.
the nature of a workshop, basically.
if we can get, excuse me, confirmations, we can post the workshop sooner.
And we didn't even have any attendees. Was this be a hybrid? Did we hybrid it last time?
We had it in the small meeting room, so it would be a hybrid Teams meeting, not a live broadcast on a Saturday.
I mean, I was the only person in attendance in 2012. I didn't say anything. I was asked, but I didn't say anything.
I don't follow you, Dean, but I want the law firms to come here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Of course, yeah.
I'm just meaning,
Yeah.
if
They will be asked to
if
be
the
here in
public wants to
person.
watch it. I'm just saying.
Yeah, they can watch.
Yeah.
They can watch.
Pardon me?
I think they can watch. It's just
Sure,
you don't
yeah,
want-
yes, they
no,
should be able to,
absolutely,
yeah.
okay. But you don't want input. Okay.
Well,
You're gonna post the documents. I'm
you want to
fine.
have public comment
No.
at the session?
No.
I mean, I'll leave that up to you, but I don't see that as particularly,
No, you added. I mean,
Relevant.
yeah, okay, it's our decision.
Well, I think that might be odd, to have public.
It would on that sort of thing. These
Yeah.
are interviews. It's like we don't do it, for example, committees.
Yeah, and
appointments.
in any event, but I do think providing the documents
Yes,
is
and if
important.
someone might
that-
send a letter and say, hey, I know this attorney, he's really, really good, or whatever.
Exactly, so I think that's important.
Yeah, that's helpful.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, all right, so you guys will get back to me, I guess, in terms of which firms you would like to interview. Okay, why don't you do that, okay?
And then just speaking to the last time we did this, we did prepare sample interview questions, and we can provide those to you, understanding you may have certain questions that you want to ask. We just have to be mindful to ask the same questions to each firm. It could be phrased a little differently. So if you want, we can provide the ones that we used last time.
Are we required to do that?
We're not required to do that. I don't mind doing that, but what I'd also like to do is bake in enough time so we have an open forum as well.
Yeah.
So we can ask
Yeah.
open-ended questions or create a scenario. What say you about this issue? And, you know,
Yeah, you see how they
just kind of
react.
test them a little bit. Yeah, absolutely. Test them a little bit, not just have a.
Right.
So that's, I mean, why don't we work on the questions? Okay?
Yep, no problem.
All right, okay. We'll work on it. But again,
But we're
I would
not
like to
limited.
reserve some open time for.
But we're not individually limited to those questions.
No, you never are,
You never
but
are.
we're trying to make it easier for you to
Sure, I
evaluate the
appreciate that,
firms,
yeah.
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 There is a rank, yeah, good.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, call the roll. Mr. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Nacastro?
Aye.
Ms. Potaz?
Aye.
Mr. Metters?
Aye.
And the chair says aye as well. Good night, Chatham.